Su Tangyu, the legitimate princess of Great Yang, was reborn. The first thing she did after her rebirth was agree to marry into the northern Di tribe for peace in half a month. The second thing, she knelt before the Buddha and kowtowed 999 times, making 3 vows, Buddha above. This disciple gives thanks for being granted a second life. First, I pray that the marriage alliance proceeds smoothly, safeguarding the peace and tranquility of Great Yang's people. Second, I pray to sever all ties with my family and my fiancé, Shen Lingmo. Third, I pray that my fiancé Shen Lingmo and his true love Su Yaoyao may finally unite in marriage and live to old age in conjugal bliss. By the time she finished her vows, her forehead was swollen and bruised from the kowtows. Yet she did not utter a single sound of complaint. In her past life, she had fought tooth and nail against the marriage alliance, and had married Shen Lingmo as she wished, only to be utterly spurned by everyone in the end. When news of Su Yaoyoro's tragic death in her distant marriage to the northern Di tribe reached Great Yang, Shen Lingmo personally forced her to drink the poisonous Chenji wine, which tore her intestines apart and left her to die in agony. That kind of pain was simply unbearable. Given a second chance, she dared not want Shen Lingmo ever again, after making her vows. Su Tangyu propped herself up against the wall and stumbled out of the Buddhist hall. As soon as she lifted her head, she was blocked in the corridor by her fiancé, Shen Lingmo. You look absolutely dreadful. Have you finally learned your lesson from falling into the water? Next time you dare to deliberately spill tea on Yaoyao again, I'll kick you into the lotus pond to soak and sober up once more. His words cut like a cold wind, sending a shiver down Su Tangyu's spine. She had been reborn precisely on the day Shen Lingmo had kicked her into the lotus pond, and Su Yaoyao, the name on Shen Lingmo's lips, was originally an orphan girl handpicked by her imperial grandmother to take her place in the marriage alliance with the northern Di tribe. After 2 lifetimes of separation, Su Tangyu looked at the Marquis of Zhengguo's heir whom she had once loved with all her heart and felt not a single stir of affection. She merely asked indifferently, "What are you doing here?" Shen Lingmo looked taken aback. "Why aren't you clinging to me and weeping about being wronged like you always do?" Su Tangyu gave a bitter smile, tugging her thin cloak tighter around herself. "Crying only mattered if there was someone who cared to comfort you. But in truth, ever since Su Yaoyao had entered the palace at the age of 12, her world had turned upside down. Clearly, she was the princess of Great Yang, but whenever she crossed paths with Su Yaoyao, she was always forced to yield. Yielding her palace chambers, yielding her princess title. Whenever something went wrong with Su Yaoyao, it was always her fault for being jealous and spiteful. Her attempts to defend herself were dismissed as stubborn refusal to admit guilt. Her world had long since been reduced to just herself, all alone. Watching Su Tangyu standing in the wind, her frail figure seeming as if it could be blown away at any moment, Shen Lingmo frowned and coughed awkwardly. "Since you know you were wrong, hand over the engagement jade pendant I gave you. Give it to Yaoyao as an apology." Yaoyao adores the pattern on that jade pendant, but Su Tangyu knew full well that Su Yaoyao did not care about the pendant's pattern. She simply loved snatching everything that belonged to her. Su Tangyu. This kind of trick had played out countless times in her past life. Seeing that she did not respond, Shen Lingmo's brows furrowed, his voice growing colder by the second. "But it's just a lifeless trinket. 2 years ago, you nearly killed Yaoyao, leaving her clinging to life by a thread. Now she's even willing to take your place in the marriage alliance. Can't you be a little more magnanimous and let her have the pendant? Take it." Su Tangyu unfastened the jade pendant from her waist and held it out, cutting off Shen Lingmo's words mid-sentence and leaving him sputtering, his face turning red with frustration. Su Tangyu paid him no further heed, turning and walking away on her own. By the time she returned to the princess's palace, it was already evening. She hadn't even had a chance to drink a sip of hot water when her nanny ordered her to copy Buddhist scriptures. This rule of copying scriptures had been personally decreed by her once devoted imperial grandmother, who claimed that her fate clashed with Su Yaoyoro's. Whenever Su Yaoyao fell ill or suffered any discomfort, she was forced to copy scriptures to atone for her sins. It was not until late at night that Su Tangyu finally finished copying 100 volumes of atonement scriptures. holding the scrolls, she made her way to the West Palace as usual, the residence of Su Yaruyaro. But as soon as she reached the West Palace, she heard the sound of Su Yaruyara's soft, sobbing cries coming from inside. "Lingmore, hold me tight, let me feel all of you. I love you so much, I agreed to take her place in the marriage alliance. But I don't want to give my body to some barbarian in half a month. You gave me your engagement jade pendant, you like me too, don't you? Take me, please, be my first man." Su Tangyu froze in her tracks. Through the crack in the door, she saw Su Yaruyaro, stripped down to nothing but her undergarments, straddling Shen Lingmore's lap, and Shen Lingmore, his eyes bloodshot, his hands clutching her slender waist, thrusting into her like a wild beast, his voice low and rough. "Yes, remember this. Remember every bit of pleasure I'm giving you." The overlapping figures of Shen Lingmore and Su Yaruyaro stabbed at her eyes, filling her with a wave of nausea. She averted her gaze and fled as quickly as she could. Who would have thought that just 100 steps away, she ran into her elder brother, Crown Prince Su Qian. Su Qian's eyes were dark and shadowed. "Tang Yu, you saw it too, didn't you? Lingmore and Yaruyaro are truly in love. 2 years ago, you nearly killed Yaruyaro. Now you're giving Lingmore to her in return. It's only fair, settling all debts between you." "Enough." Su Tangyu stared at Su Qian with a mocking gaze. "Rest assured, now that I've agreed to the marriage alliance, I will not entangle myself with Shen Lingmore again. I won't let your precious Yaruyaro suffer any more grievances." Once she left for good, she would no longer be an eyesore to any of them. Seeing that she had finally come to her senses, Su Qian nodded in approval. "Don't be sad, little sister. The Northern Di tribe ceded 8 cities to marry you, and swore never to invade our borders again. It's clear how highly they value you. We won't be stingy with your dowry either. You'll live a life of luxury once you marry over there." He actually spoke as if she was the one who had gotten the better end of the deal. Su Tangyu could not help but needle him. "Brother, do you know that in the Northern Di royal family, brothers share the same wife, even fathers and sons, grandfathers and grandsons? Do you still think that's a life of luxury?" Su Qian's face stiffened, losing all his earlier confidence. "At the very least, you'll never want for food or clothing." With that, he turned and hurried away. Watching his fleeing figure, Su Tangyu called out one last time. "Brother, do you still remember that before I turned 12, I was your dearest little sister?" Su Qian's footsteps faltered for a split second, but he did not turn back, seemingly unable to believe that she could really let go of Shen Lingmore. But it didn't matter. Family, love, she no longer yearned for any of it, in this life. She would no longer beg for anything that did not belong to her, nor would she rely on anyone else ever again. She would live for herself, and herself alone. Exhausted from the day's events, she fell into a deep sleep. But the next morning, she was woken by a commotion outside her window. Stepping out of her chambers, she saw Shen Lingmore feeding Su Yaruyaro sweet soup in the courtyard, while Su Qian directed palace servants to carry away the dowry that had just been moved into her palace the day before. "What do you think you're doing?" Su Tangyu stood at the palace gate, her voice cold. At the sound of her voice, Su Yaruyaro immediately clung to Shen Lingmore's arm, her eyes reddening as she pleaded, "Sister, I've always adored that coral tree in your dowry collection. Could you bear to part with it and give it to me?" Even as she spoke, Su Qian continued with his work, paying her no mind. Shen Lingmore set down the soup bowl, looking as if her request was the most reasonable thing in the world. "If Yaruyaro wants it, give it to her. She's sacrificing herself to take your place in the marriage alliance. Can't you even bear to part with such a trivial thing?" Su Tangyu laughed, a cold, bitter sound. In her past life, they had used the same excuse, that Su Yaruyaro was taking her place in the marriage alliance, to force her to hand over her entire dowry, and now, in this life, they expected her to yield again. She fixed her gaze on Su Qian, who knew the truth all too well. "A princess's dowry is the face of Great Yang. Are you so eager to make a laughingstock of our nation in front of the Northern Di tribe?" Su Qian averted his eyes, refusing to meet her gaze or answer her question. Shen Lingmore, however, grew impatient. "If you know it would bring shame to Great Yang, then stop being so stubborn. Whatever Yaruyaro wants, just give it to her." Su Tangyu gave a self-mocking chuckle. do as you please. After all, ever since she was reborn, she had never expected any of them to stand up for her or offer her the slightest bit of help. Her expression cold, she turned to go back inside when suddenly, a palace servant came rushing into the courtyard. "Your Highness, the marriage alliance decree has arrived." Su Tangyu paused mid-step, turning to take the decree only for Shen Lingmore to snatch it from the servant's hands before she could reach it. He flipped it open casually. In the next instant, his shocked and enraged shout echoed throughout the entire courtyard. "Su Tangyue, why is your name on the marriage alliance decree as the princess to marry the northern Di tribe?" The courtyard fell deathly silent. Su Tangyu stared at Shen Lingmore's trembling hands. Unable to fathom his reaction for a moment, a cold, mocking smile tugged at her lips. "Why are you acting like the sky is falling? You've always claimed to feel sorry for Yaoiro's fragile health. Now that I'm the one going to the northern Di tribe instead of her, shouldn't you be overjoyed?" She would never forget the ferocious look on his face in her past life, when he had forced the poisonous wine down her throat. "Su Tangyu, why wasn't it you who went to the northern Di tribe? Yaro is dead." She was always afraid of being alone. "Go down to the underworld and keep her company. Beg for her forgiveness, atone for your sins." Now, who was he putting on this act for? Before Su Tangyu could say more, Su Qian cut her off in a flustered panic. "Su Tangyu, watch your tongue, Lingmore, don't listen to her nonsense. Yaro is only taking her place in the marriage alliance. Of course her name can't be written on the official decree, with a single sentence." Su Qian covered up the truth once again. Shen Lingmore opened his mouth to say something more, but Su Yaro suddenly clutched her chest, her face turning deathly pale. "Lingmore, I can't breathe. I think my illness is flaring up again. Can you take me to the imperial physician, please?" At the sound of her words, Shen Lingmore forgot everything else, lifting Su Yaro into his arms and rushing out of the courtyard in a hurry. Su Qian followed closely behind, his face filled with anxiety. The bustling palace courtyard emptied out in the blink of an eye. Su Tangyu was already used to this. In her past life, Su Yaro had always resorted to this trick to steal the spotlight and gain everyone's sympathy. At first, she had felt resentful and angry about it, but her anger had only earned her harsh reprimands. Everyone had accused her of being petty and ungenerous, of being unable to tolerate Su Yaoiro's presence. She had felt wronged, heartbroken, and had even cried herself to sleep under the covers countless nights. But now, she merely gave a faint order to her servants: "Gather all the things Shen Lingmore gave me and send them back to the Marquis of Zhengguo's residence. Return them to him." When a relationship was over, it was best to cut ties cleanly. In this life, she would have no more entanglements with Shen Lingmore, none whatsoever. In the days that followed, Su Tangyu kept herself busy. She immersed herself in learning everything she could about the northern Di tribe, their customs, their climate, their language. The days passed quickly in her busy routine. One morning, shortly after finishing her breakfast, Shen Lingmore arrived at the palace again, with Su Yaro in tow. As expected, Su Yaro opened her mouth to demand something else. "I'm so sorry, sister. The imperial grandmother saw your wedding dress and thought it would suit me perfectly, so she gave it to me as a gift. I suppose you'll have to have a new one made." Shen Lingmore chimed in, echoing her words. "Yaro is marrying into the northern Di tribe in your place. It's just a wedding dress, surely you can let her have it." It was exactly the same as her past life. Su Tangyu let out a cold, derisive laugh. "If the imperial grandmother has spoken, how could I possibly refuse?" She shot a glance at Shen Lingmore, then turned her cold smile on Su Yaro. "There are plenty more fine things in my dowry, Su Yaro. If there's anything else you desire, speak up boldly, I'll give it all to you." Shen Lingmore felt a strange twist in his chest at her words. There was something off about the way she looked at him, as if the thing she was willing to yield wasn't mere possessions, but him himself. He frowned and retorted sharply, "Keep your so-called generosity to yourself. Whatever Yaro wants, I'll give her myself." With that, he turned to leave with Su Yaro in tow, but Su Yaro suddenly clung to his arm, her voice dripping with coquetry. "I have some girlish secrets I want to share with my sister alone. Lingmore, wait for me outside, will you?" Shen Lingmore was pushed out the door, leaving only Su Yaoyao and Su Tangyu in the palace chamber, the moment the door closed. Su Yaoyao dropped her innocent act, her face twisting into a triumphant sneer as she gloated. "Sister, do you remember when you fell ill at 10 years old? Lingmore knelt in the temple all night to pray for a string of prayer beads to ward off your illness. Look, does this look familiar?" She held up an exquisitely carved jade talisman, dangling it tauntingly before Su Tangyu's eyes. "This is a protective talisman Lingmore begged for me by climbing 10,800 stone steps on his knees. Isn't it so much more heartfelt than your silly beads? You must be seething with resentment, aren't you? How pitiful. Now, even Lingmore's visits to you are nothing more than a charity I deign to grant. Tell me, who is the real princess here, and who is just the orphan girl meant to be a stand-in bride?" Su Tangyu knew Su Yaoyao was deliberately provoking her, but any trace of jealousy or heartache she might have felt had long been drained away in her past life. She kept her eyes fixed on her book, not bothering to lift her head. Su Yaoyao huffed in frustration and stormed out, flinging one last taunt over her shoulder. "Keep pretending to be so calm. I'll see how long you can keep up this act." That night, a moon-viewing banquet was held in the palace. As a princess, Su Tangyu had no choice but to attend, but her eyelids kept twitching uncontrollably, a vague sense of unease gnawing at her heart. She was about to excuse herself and leave when Shen Lingmore suddenly charged over, grabbing her wrist in a vice-like grip. "Did you steal the protective talisman I gave Yaoyao? The master said it has to be worn close to the skin to cure her illness. Are you trying to kill her by taking it away? What nonsense are you spouting?" Su Tangyu struggled to free her wrist, but Shen Lingmore's grip only tightened. At that moment, Su Yaoyao also rushed over, dropping to her knees and bursting into tears as she begged, "Sister, I know you're madly in love with Lingmore, and you're angry that he prayed for this talisman for me, that's why you stole it, but it's the only thing keeping me alive. Please, please give it back to me." Every eye in the banquet hall turned to stare at Su Tangyu, their gazes filled with accusation and suspicion. Su Tangyu's temper flared, and she wrenched her wrist free from Shen Lingmore's grasp. "I didn't take it. I am the legitimate princess of Great Yang. I would never stoop to such thievery." But her words trailed off mid-sentence as Su Yaoyao suddenly rolled her eyes and collapsed to the ground, unconscious. "Yaoyao," Shen Lingmore caught her in his arms, his eyes reddening with overwhelming anxiety and heartache. Su Tangyu's brow furrowed. She knew exactly what was coming next. Sure enough, Shen Lingmore whipped around, his gaze blazing with fury as he glared at her. "You claim you didn't take it, fine. Then we'll search you." Su Tangyu stumbled back in horror, her voice trembling with outrage. "Shen Lingmore, have you lost your mind? Chastity is the most precious virtue for a woman in Great Yang. To search me in front of all these people, are you trying to ruin me? I am the crown princess of Great Yang. Who dares to lay a hand on me?" The palace guards hesitated, clearly unwilling to defy a princess, but Shen Lingmore set Su Yaoyao gently on the ground. His face cold as ice as he strode toward Su Tangyu, he grabbed her shoulders and wrenched her forward with brute force. "If the guards won't do it, then I will, R.I.P. The silk of her palace gown tore open with a sharp, humiliating sound, exposing her undergarments and the pale, delicate skin of her shoulders and chest for everyone to see. A wave of blood rushed to her head, but not a single person stepped forward to defend her. She clutched her undergarments tightly to her chest, tears of rage and humiliation burning in her eyes as she stared at Shen Lingmore, her voice cracking with pain. "You will regret this." The fierce, bloodshot look in her eyes sent an unexpected jolt of panic through Shen Lingmore's heart. At that very moment, a gasp rang out from the crowd. "Look! A jade talisman just fell out of Princess Yaoyoro's sleeve." Sure enough, lying on the ground was the very same jade talisman Su Yaoyao had flaunted earlier, but it was too late. Her gown was torn, her dignity shattered beyond repair for all to see. Su Tangyu pushed Shen Lingmore away with all her remaining strength, her voice cold and exhausted. "The talisman has been found. You can let go of me now." Shen Lingmore snapped back to his senses, suddenly flustered. He fumbled to wrap his cloak around her trembling shoulders, his voice filled with awkward remorse. "I'm sorry. I was just so worried about Yaoyao." Crown Prince Su Qian also hurried over, But all he said was, "This matter ends here. I will give the order, no one is to speak of what happened at this moon-viewing banquet ever again." Su Tangyu didn't wait to hear the rest. She turned and walked away, her back straight despite the humiliation burning in her chest. She knew perfectly well that Su Qian wasn't ending this fast to protect her. He was only doing it to shield Su Yaoiro's reputation. Everyone present was a seasoned courtier, they could all see through Su Yaoiro's little scheme in an instant. The bright full moon hung high above her head. The walk back to her palace felt longer than it ever had before. Su Tangyu walked alone, tilting her head up to the sky to force the tears back into her eyes. There was no point in being sad, she had long since given up on the empty promises of family and love. After the moon-viewing banquet, rumors spread like wildfire that Su Tangyu had lost her virtue. She became the laughingstock of the entire capital overnight. Su Tangyu shut herself away in her palace, devoting all her time to preparing for the marriage alliance. Shen Lingmo did not come to see her again. The days passed until the 23rd day of the 12th lunar month, Little New Year in Great Yang. Su Tangyu left the palace to purchase books and medicinal herbs for her journey to the northern Di tribe. But as soon as she reached the palace gate, she saw Shen Lingmo helping Su Yaoyaro into a carriage. Su Yaoyaro leaned against Shen Lingmo like a boneless creature, her smile dripping with malice as she taunted, "Sister, did you follow us here because you heard Lingmo was taking me out of the palace?" Su Tangyu ignored her, turning to walk in the opposite direction, but before she could take 2 steps, Shen Lingmo suddenly grabbed her arm, his voice sharp with irritation. "Where are you running off to? You snuck out here to follow us, and now you're throwing a tantrum. If you want to come along, just say so. Didn't you used to cling to me like a leech? Did I ever stop you?" Without waiting for her reply, he dragged her into the carriage by force and took them all to the Temple of Marriage outside the palace walls. The Temple of Marriage, beneath the marriage tree, colorful lanterns blazed brightly, and the branches were draped with countless red silk ribbons inscribed with lovers' vows. Once upon a time, Shen Lingmo had brought Su Tangyu here, and together they had knelt beneath this tree to make a solemn vow. "I, Shen Lingmo, swear to heaven that in this life, I will protect only Su Tangyu, I will love only her, until death do us part." But now, Su Tangyu turned around, and her eyes fell on a sight that made her blood run cold. Not far away, Shen Lingmo was kneeling before the marriage tree with Su Yaoyao, performing a wedding ceremony for themselves. They bowed to heaven and earth, they bowed to the marriage tree, finally, they bowed to each other as husband and wife. Su Tangyu watched in silence, her face calm, no tears, no anger, no outburst. After the ceremony, Shen Lingmo turned around and spotted her. It was as if he had only just remembered she was there. For the first time, he left Su Yaoiro's side and walked over to her. A guilty look on his face as he stammered out an explanation. "Tangyu, I know we're engaged, but Yaoyaro said she wanted to experience what it's like to marry someone in the mortal world. I was only trying to fulfill her wish before she leaves for the marriage alliance." Su Tangyu cut him off before he could finish, her voice steady and emotionless. "I understand, you just wanted to make sure Su Yaoyaro had no regrets, to be her husband for a day. It's fine." Shen Lingmo froze, his sharp, handsome eyes widening in surprise. She didn't sound like she was pretending, but in the past, she would have flown into a jealous rage if he so much as looked at Su Yaoyao. A strange, unsettling feeling rose in his chest. He shifted uncomfortably, changing the subject to hide his confusion. "Tangyu, what wish did you come here to make?" Su Tangyu tied a red silk ribbon she had been holding to a branch of the marriage tree, her voice soft but firm. "I already made my wish. On the very first day of her rebirth, she had knelt before the Buddha and prayed. First, I pray that the marriage alliance goes smoothly. Second, I pray to sever all ties with my family and my fiancé, Shen Lingmo. Third, I pray that my fiancé Shen Lingmo and Su Yaoyaro may finally unite in marriage and live to old age in conjugal bliss." After the visit to the marriage tree, night began to fall. Su Tangyu intended to return to the palace, but Su Yaoyaro clung to her arm. Her voice sickly sweet. "Sister, I've heard the lighthouse in the Western Market is absolutely breathtaking. Won't you come with us to see it?" Su Tangyu was about to refuse, but Shen Lingmo cut in. his tone brooking no argument. Yarrow is in such high spirits, don't ruin it for her." Reluctantly, she was dragged along to the lighthouse. The wind was howling fiercely that night, and the towering lighthouse swayed precariously in the gale. "Lingmore, look, it's so beautiful." Su Yarrow giggled and clung to Shen Lingmore, heedless of the danger. Su Tangyu stared up at the teetering lighthouse, an instinctive sense of dread making her want to step back. But no sooner had she lifted her foot than she heard someone scream, "The lighthouse is collapsing, run for your lives." Su Tangyu's body reacted on its own, stumbling backward, but suddenly, Shen Lingmore slammed into her, hard. Yarrow, run," he shouted. He didn't spare Su Tangyu so much as a single glance. Shielding Su Yarrow with his body as he fled, never looking back, the next second, there was a deafening crash. The entire lighthouse came crashing down, hurtling straight toward Su Tangyu. She had no time to dodge, she could only raise her arms to shield her face. A wave of searing heat washed over her, followed by the excruciating pain of her flesh being crushed and burned. The agony was so intense that she blacked out instantly, in the grip of that unbearable pain. Su Tangyu slipped into darkness, her consciousness drifted, her memories fragmenting and overlapping. She felt as if she had been transported back to before she turned 12. Her imperial grandmother would cradle her in her arms, whispering softly, "Tangyu is grandmother's most precious little princess, the most honored young lady in all of Great Yang." Her crown prince brother would build swings for her with his own hands, promising, "Tangyu, brother will protect you for the rest of your life." When she mentioned in passing that she wanted to see maple leaves, Shen Lingmore had secretly bought 10 acres of hills on the outskirts of the capital overnight, planting them all with maple trees, and gotten chased 10 streets by his father, the Marquis of Zhonghua, for his trouble. To prove he was worthy of marrying her, he had gone off to war at a tender age, capturing 5 enemy cities in a row to use as his betrothal gifts. He had knelt before her, swearing solemnly, "We are childhood sweethearts, a match made in heaven. I will never let you suffer a single grievance in this life. Marry me, you will never regret it." She didn't know how long she lay unconscious. Su Tangyu finally stirred awake to the sound of loud voices arguing. Through her blurry vision, she heard her crown prince brother's voice, sharp with urgency, "Hurry, fetch the best imperial physicians in the palace to treat Tangyu at once." She heard her imperial grandmother weeping, "Spare no expense, no matter what it takes, you must save Tangyu." Su Tangyu felt dazed, as if she were still trapped in a dream, but then, she heard her grandmother's voice crack with a different kind of urgency. "If something happens to Tangyu, then Yarrow will have to take her place in the marriage alliance again. Give the order, Tangyu must be cured, no matter the cost." Even though she had long ago resolved not to care about them, those words cut through her heart like a knife. She slipped back into unconsciousness. When she woke again, the sky was already bright, her entire body reeked of medicinal herbs, and both her arms throbbed with the agonizing pain of severe burns. As soon as she opened her eyes, her gaze fell on the table not far away where Su Yarrow sat. Surrounded by Shen Lingmore and Su Qian, Su Yarrow's voice was soft and sugary as she simpered, "I'm perfectly fine, really. Sister is injured too. Lingmore, crown prince brother, go take care of her instead. It's all my fault, I insisted on seeing the lighthouse, and now I've gotten sister hurt." Shen Lingmore brushed a bead of sweat from Su Yarrow's forehead, his voice gentle with concern. Yarrow, this isn't your fault at all. You've been through far more fright than she has. Of course we're going to take care of you first." Su Qian echoed his words, "She has palace maids to look after her. We only need to worry about you." Su Tangyu listened in silence, then suddenly began to laugh, a hollow, bitter sound that made her nose sting with unshed tears. Her laughter caught their attention, and Shen Lingmore, Su Qian, and Su Yarrow finally realized she was awake. Shen Lingmore was the first to rush to her bedside, his voice filled with superficial concern. "How are you feeling? Does your body still hurt badly?" Every inch of her body was racked with pain, but unlike before, she didn't burst into tears or complain. She simply shook her head, her expression blank. Shen Lingmore didn't seem to notice her indifference. He merely shifted gears, changing the subject. "While you were unconscious from your injuries, Coupled with the jade talisman incident last time, rumors have been spreading around the capital that Yaro tried to harm you. She's been terribly upset about it. Tomorrow is the Great Yang Festival of Ancestor Worship, and we're going to clear up the rumors. At the ceremony, you will climb the star-picking tower and tell everyone, in person, that Yaro is kind and pure-hearted. Clear her name, and don't let these rumors tarnish her reputation. Su Tengyue's heart turned to ice at his words, but Shen Lingmo was not asking for her opinion, he was giving her an order. The next day, despite her unhealed wounds, Su Tengyu was dressed and escorted to the star-picking tower. The star-picking tower had been built specially for her by her imperial grandmother, as a place to pray for her well-being. Later, however, just because Su Yaro had said she liked it, it had become Su Yaroiro's exclusive possession, and Su Tengyu had never been allowed to set foot there again. When she reached the top floor, Su Yaro was already waiting for her. She dismissed all the palace servants, then dropped her mask of innocence, sneering triumphantly. Su Tengyu, look around you, your grandmother, your brother, your fiancé, their hearts belong to me now, so what if you're a noble princess? You're still going to be married off to the northern Di tribe, to become a plaything for their men. As for all your wealth and glory, I'll graciously take them over for you. As for you, you've lost your purity, you've lost your family, and soon you'll be serving a bunch of barbarians. If I were you, I'd have thrown myself off this tower and died long ago. Su Tengyu listened to her venomous words, but she did not feel the heartache she had expected. I won't die, she said calmly. No one else loved her, but she could love herself. Su Yaro snorted, seeing her calm as stubbornness. We'll just see about that. With that, she rolled her eyes and fainted dramatically. Yaro, Su Tengyu, what have you done to her this time? Shen Lingmo suddenly charged up the wooden stairs, scooped the limp Su Yaro into his arms, and rushed back down without a second glance. Su Qian followed hot on his heels, raising his hand and slapping Su Tengyu hard across the face. You never learn. How dare you hurt Yaro again? If anything happens to her, you'll pay for it with your life. Su Tengyu clutched her stinging, swollen cheek, the pain numbing her to the bone. She did not utter a single word of defense. Her own flesh and blood could be crueler to her than the most reviled barbarians of the northern Di tribe. Su Tengyu counted the days left until her marriage alliance, only 4 more days, and she would never have to lay eyes on these so-called family members again. She stumbled back to the princess's palace, her hands trembling with pain, but she had barely stepped inside, let alone had a chance to apply medicine to her wounds, when Shen Lingmo burst into the room in a panic, grabbed her hand, and dragged her toward the West Palace. Yaro has woken up coughing up blood. It's all your fault. The sorcerer says only your flesh and blood can save her. Come with me now and atone for your sins. Su Tengyu was dragged into the West Palace. Palace servants knelt in a line on the floor, and Su Yaro lay on the bed, her face deathly pale. Smack! Su Qian rushed forward, slapping her again, his voice trembling with rage. Su Tengyu, how many times do you have to hurt Yaro? How could I have a sister as vicious as you? Su Tengyu's head snapped to the side, her cheek swelling up instantly. Before she could even speak, palace servants forced her to her knees and sliced open her arm with a sharp blade. Ah! Su Tengyu cried out in agony, her face draining of all color, but not a single person showed her the slightest bit of sympathy. After they had drained enough of her blood, Su Tengyu was dragged outside the palace chamber and forced to kneel in the snow, copying Buddhist scriptures to atone for her crimes. It was the 12th lunar month, and the wind and snow cut through her thin clothes like knives. Su Yaro remained unconscious all night, and Su Tengyu knelt there, copying scriptures, all night long. The next morning, her stack of copied scriptures had just been taken away when Shen Lingmo, ignoring her deathly pale face, grabbed her arm urgently and pulled her back into the room. Your flesh and blood really worked. Yaro has woken up. She heard you gave her your blood and prayed for her all night, and she's so grateful she wants to thank you in person. Su Tengyu was exhausted from a night of pain and cold, her face ashen with fatigue. She was dragged to Su Yaroiro's bedside, where Su Yaro lay with a healthy, rosy complexion. As soon as she saw them enter, she threw off her quilt and scrambled out of bed to kneel on the floor, putting on a show of remorse. Sister, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have made you cut your flesh and give me your blood, or copy scriptures all night long. I should have woken up sooner. Before she could finish, Shen Lingmo pushed Su Tangyu away roughly and rushed forward to lift Su Yaoyao back into bed. You're still weak, how dare you kneel on the floor? Su Tangyu is strong and healthy. She can bear the cold, you don't need to worry about her. Su Yaoyao leaned into Shen Lingmo's arms, shooting Su Tangyu a triumphant glance. Then she switched to the Lingnan dialect, speaking softly. Lingmo, don't hold me in front of sister, she'll get jealous. The palace maids told me you held me all night while I was unconscious. Su Tangyu's hands tightened into fists, but then she heard Shen Lingmo reply, also in the Lingnan dialect, it's alright. If she wants to be the future lady of the Marquis of Zhengguo's manor, the first rule is that she shouldn't be so petty and jealous. Su Yaoyoro's smile widened, even more malicious. Lucky for us, sister can't understand the Lingnan dialect, otherwise, she'd be throwing another tantrum over your words. She glanced at Su Tangyu, her eyes dripping with sarcasm. Su Tangyu said nothing. Once upon a time, she really couldn't understand the Lingnan dialect, but Shen Lingmo's ancestral home was in Lingnan, in her past life. Desperate to fit into his family, she had secretly learned it. Then she heard Su Yaoyao speak even more boldly, in the Lingnan dialect. Lingmo, will you stay with me tonight? Will you make love to me again and again? Su Tangyu froze, her eyes fixed on Shen Lingmo. The man's Adam's apple bobbed up and down as he replied, his voice thick with desire. Are you feeling better? I could never get enough of you, I'm only afraid you won't be able to handle it. Su Tangyu could not bear to listen any longer. She opened her mouth and spoke, suddenly switching to the Lingnan dialect. Shen Lingmo, is it fun to cheat and betray your betrothed? The room fell deathly silent. Shen Lingmo jumped to his feet, panic flashing across his face. Tangyu, what are you saying? You can understand the Lingnan dialect. His expression shifted wildly, betraying his guilt and remorse. Su Tangyu suddenly felt a surge of overwhelming boredom. She lied, her voice calm. I heard you say that phrase before. I was curious, so I wanted to ask what it means. So you don't understand? Shen Lingmo let out a visible sigh of relief, then frowned, scolding her in annoyance. Don't speak nonsense when you don't understand what's going on. I was just asking about Yaoyoro's health, and you interrupted us and scared her. When I have time, I'll teach you the Lingnan dialect, then you can join our conversations. Su Tangyu suppressed the bitter sarcasm rising in her throat. There's no need, I'll never go to Lingnan, so learning it would be useless. If she were to learn any foreign language, it would be the language of the northern Di tribe. Shen Lingmo did not press the issue. He tucked the quilt gently around Su Yaoyao, then turned to look at Su Tangyu. Yaoyao had tonic herbs brewed this morning. You should drink a bowl too, you worked hard last night. Su Tangyu did not care for his cheap, belated concern. If there's nothing else, I'll go back to my room to rest. She would sooner die than drink any medicine brewed by Su Yaoyao. It would probably be poisoned. Her refusal made Shen Lingmo's face darken again with irritation. Why are you being so difficult? You're just putting on this pale, pitiful act to get our attention, aren't you? Why are you being so stubborn? So that was it, after a night of agony and a night of kneeling in the snow. Shen Lingmo thought she was just pretending to be weak to gain sympathy. Su Tangyu let out a bitter laugh. Don't worry, from now on, I won't need any of your attention ever again. She would never have any expectations of them ever again. From this day forward, she would rely only on herself. Su Tangyu stumbled back to her bedroom. Shen Lingmo sent someone to deliver some medicine for her wounds later, but she did not touch it. She collapsed onto her bed and fell into a deep, exhausted sleep. When she woke up, she was dragged out of the palace again by Shen Lingmo's men and taken to the hunting grounds. He said that Su Yaoyao would be leaving for the marriage alliance in 2 days, and she wanted to go hunting one last time before she left. When Su Tangyu arrived at the hunting grounds, she saw Shen Lingmo and Su Qian flanking Su Yaoyao, carefully helping her mount a docile horse. Don't be afraid, Yaoyao, I and the crown prince will protect you, Shen Lingmo said gently. That's right. Yaoyao, don't worry, even if you fall off the horse, your crown prince brother will catch you, Su Qian added, his voice equally tender. Their gentle, attentive expressions made Su Tongyue's heart ache with a faint, distant memory. When they were children, it had been her, surrounded by the two of them, who they had taught to ride a horse step by step. But now, those warm memories were faded and blurred beyond recognition. Su Tangyu looked away, forcing herself not to dwell on the past. But Su Yaoyao was clearly not going to let her off the hook. She smiled sweetly. Lingmo, Crown Prince brother, weren't you two going to have a hunting competition? Go on, leave me with sister. I'm sure sister will take good care of me. Shen Lingmo shot Su Tangyu a glance. Since Yaoyao wants you to stay with her, you'd better take good care of her. No one cared about Su Tongyue's opinion. At Su Yaoyoro's insistence, the two of them rode off together on horseback. As soon as they were out of the two men's sight, Su Yaoyoro's expression twisted into a malicious sneer. Su Tangyu, don't fool yourself into thinking that Lingmo sent you medicine because he cares about you. Do you really believe he wouldn't kill you without a second thought if it meant saving me? Su Tongyue's heart skipped a beat. Then she watched in horror as Su Yaoyao pulled out a needle and stabbed it hard into the horse's neck. Nay, the horse reared up in pain, neighing loudly. Su Tangyu was jolted violently in the saddle, barely managing to cling to the reins. Before she could react, Su Yaoyao rolled off her horse and screamed at the top of her lungs. Lingmo, Crown Prince brother, help me. Su Tongyue's heart sank, a sense of dread washing over her. In the next instant, two arrows came flying at her, one aimed at her heart, the other at the horse's vital spot, shot without mercy. Thud! The sharp arrow pierced her flesh. Su Tangyu fell off her horse, hitting the ground hard. As her consciousness faded into darkness, she saw Shen Lingmo and Su Qian drop their bows and rush toward Su Yaoyao, competing to be the first to reach her. Yaoyao, are you alright? Did you get scared? Shen Lingmo cried out, his voice filled with panic. Yaoyao, you scared me half to death. What would I do if something happened to you? Su Qian echoed, his face ashen with fear. Su Tangyu had been abandoned once again. The people who were supposed to be her family and her lover had been the cruelest to her of all. She did not know how long she lay unconscious. When Su Tangyu finally woke up again, she was shocked to find Shen Lingmo sitting by her bedside. As soon as he saw her open her eyes, he leaned forward to help her sit up. How are you feeling? You've been unconscious for a whole day. Yaoyao will be leaving for the marriage alliance tomorrow morning. I'm sorry, Yaoyao can't handle being scared. I was afraid the horse would frighten her and make her ill, so I acted on impulse and shot the arrow at you. Yaoyao can't afford to have any accidents before the marriage alliance. Her health is the most important thing. You understand, don't you? You've suffered so much this time. The Empress Dowager has set the date for our wedding tomorrow too. After we get married tomorrow, I'll make it up to you, I promise. Su Tangyu looked at him silently, then let out a weak, bitter laugh. Shen Lingmo, there is no tomorrow for us. Shen Lingmo did not hear her clearly. What did you say? Su Tangyu shook her head. Nothing. Tomorrow, he would marry Su Yaoyao, and she would leave for the northern Di tribe to fulfill the marriage alliance. Once everything was settled, neither family nor love would ever be able to tie her down again. She was certain that in this life, she would have a brand new beginning. Shen Lingmo left soon after. No one else came to see her until the morning of the marriage alliance. Dawn broke. Su Tangyu applied her makeup by the faint glow of dawn, changed into her wedding dress alone, and stepped out of her palace chamber. As she passed the West Palace, she caught a glimpse of her imperial grandmother and Su Qian by Su Yaoyoro's side, one combing her hair with her own hands, the other helping her put on her dress. The scene was one of perfect happiness. Su Tangyu did not pause. Continuing on her way, she ran into Shen Lingmo in the corridor, dressed in his bright red wedding robes. He looked handsome beyond compare, a smile playing on his lips, but when he saw her, he froze. Looking confused, Tangyu, the auspicious hour hasn't arrived yet. Why are you out here alone instead of waiting for the crown prince to escort you? Are you that eager to become my bride? Su Tangyu hid the sarcasm in her eyes, shaking her head. No one will escort me today. I have to walk to the bridal sedan chair by myself. Shen Lingmo completely missed the meaning behind her words. He brushed a stray strand of hair from her face, comforting her. I know it's unfair to you, But the Empress Dowager and the Crown Prince feel so sorry for Yaro Yaro having to marry into the northern Di tribe, they can't bear to see her leave all alone, that's why they haven't had time for you. He took her hand in his, making a solemn promise, Tang Yu, after we're married, I'll petition the throne to lead troops to conquer the northern Di tribe at the border. In 3 years at most, I'll bring Yaro Yaro back, then the 3 of us can live happily ever after together. Su Tangyu stared at Shenlingmore in silence for a long time, saying nothing. Tangyu, thinking she had spaced out, Shenlingmore gave her a gentle push. All right, go back to your room and wait for the auspicious hour. I still need to go to the West Palace to check on Yaro Yaro. With that, he hurried off. Su Tangyu watched his retreating figure until it disappeared around the corner, then finally looked away. On this day in her past life, she had resorted to every trick in the book to marry him, fully believing he would be her lifelong home, but she had never imagined that his heart would always belong to Su Yaro Yaro, that all he would ever give her was humiliation and abuse, and that after Su Yaroiro's death, he would even make her pay with her own life. Su Tangyu took a deep breath, then turned and walked toward the palace gate. In this life, she had no other choice, but she would live well, relying on no one but herself. It was New Year's Eve today, and the lanterns at the palace gate had been hung early. The bright, dazzling lights illuminated 2 bridal sedan chairs parked side by side just inside the palace walls. Su Tangyu walked straight toward the sedan chair. But a palace servant stepped forward to stop her. Your Highness, won't you wait for the Empress Dowager and the Crown Prince to bid you farewell? Su Tangyu's footsteps faltered. Once, when they had talked about her marriage, her imperial grandmother had promised her a 10-li-long escort procession. Su Qian had even vowed that he would carry her on his back to the sedan chair, just like in common folks' weddings, to give her the utmost honor and dignity. But now, they were probably all by Su Yaroiro's side, too busy to spare her a second thought. Su Tangyu pushed the memories aside, giving a faint smile. There's no need for farewells, let's depart at once. As soon as she spoke, a commotion erupted behind her. She turned around to see Su Yaro Yaro lying on the Crown Prince's back, while her imperial grandmother, dressed in heavy, magnificent robes, followed slowly behind, tears glistening in her eyes. Don't be afraid, Yaro Yaro. Grandmother will always be by your side, her grandmother whispered. Yaro Yaro, no matter who you marry, your Crown Prince brother will always be your strongest support, Su Qian added. They made a grand, ostentatious procession all the way to where Su Tangyu stood, pausing in front of the 2 sedan chairs. Su Yaro Yaro stood on the red silk carpet, her eyes brimming with tears as she bowed to them one by one. Grandmother, Crown Prince brother, don't worry, I will be happy. After bowing, she turned to Su Tangyu and leaned in close, her voice a low, malicious whisper that only the 2 of them could hear. I've heard that the barbarians of the northern Di tribe like to share wives between fathers and sons, to boost their soldiers' morale. They even send their wives to the military camps to be used by the men. I hope you can endure such suffering. Sister, live a long life for me to watch. From now on, all the blessings that should have been yours will be mine to enjoy. Her triumphant tone dripped with malice, but Su Tangyu acted as if she had not heard a word. She was the legitimate princess of Great Yang, not a useless, spineless fool. Once, she had let herself be hurt because she cared about family and love. Now, she cared for no one but herself. No one in Great Yang or the northern Di tribe could ever hurt her again. Su Tangyu turned and stepped into the sedan chair, ordering the palace servants to set off, but then she heard Shenlingmore's urgent voice calling out, Tangyu. She turned her head to see him striding over to the sedan chair, his voice soft and gentle as he said, Tangyu, I have to send Yaro Yaro off first. I'll rush back to you as soon as I can. You go to the Marquis's manor and wait for me. Su Tangyu's eyes darkened. In her past life, Shenlingmore had also gone to send Su Yaro Yaro off on her wedding day. When the auspicious hour for their own wedding arrived, he had never shown up. She had been forced to go through the wedding ceremony alone, enduring endless mockery. But in this life, since he had finally gotten his wish to marry Su Yaro Yaro, he would probably not break his promise this time. She smiled. From now on, you can do whatever you want. You don't have to worry about me. After all, once the sedan chair set off, they would never see each other again. Seeing the smile in her eyes and her complete lack of concern, a strange feeling stirred in Shen Lingmo's chest. It was as if the moment Su Tangyu turned around, she would leave him forever, but that was impossible. Su Tangyu's reputation had been ruined when her dress was torn in public. She had refused to marry into the northern Di tribe. Who else could she marry besides him? She had no choice but to wait for him to marry her. Shaking off the unease in his heart, Shen Lingmo stared into her eyes. His voice earnest and sincere. "I promise this will be the last time we are separated. Be good and wait for me to come back and marry you." Su Tangyu nodded. "Yes, the last time we'll ever be apart. Congratulations on our wedding." With her out of the way, he and Su Yarrow would finally be able to marry without any obstacles. From now on, they would each go their separate ways, never to be entangled again. Shen Lingmo was about to say something more when a voice came from the other sedan chair. "Lingmo, where are you?" He immediately responded, "I'm here, Yarrow. I've been right here beside you." After throwing a hasty take care on the road to Su Tangyu, he hurried toward Su Yarrow's sedan chair. Watching his retreating back, Su Tangyu smiled, a smile of complete relief and freedom, and whispered softly, "Shen Lingmo, I wish you and Su Yarrow a lifetime of marital bliss, growing old together." As for her, it was time to fulfill her destiny. The sedan chair set off, the sound of gongs and drums echoing through the streets. The sedan chair circled the capital 3 times, drawing huge crowds and lively celebrations. The common people lined the streets to watch, chattering excitedly about the princess's grand wedding procession, their faces filled with envy and excitement. In the end, the 2 sedan chairs went their separate ways, one heading for the Marquis of Zhengguo's manor, the other bound for the barren lands of the northern Di tribe. From this day forward, they would never meet again. Night fell. The Marquis of Zhengguo's manor. Shen Lingmo had to drink round after round of toasts before he was finally allowed to enter the bridal chamber. As soon as he reached the door, he was pulled aside by Crown Prince Su Qian, who muttered to him, "Shen Lingmo, I'm entrusting my dearest Yarrow to you. If you ever betray her, don't blame me for punishing you severely." Shen Lingmo rubbed his throbbing head, looking confused as he retorted, "Your Highness, are you muddled? The woman I'm marrying is Tang, not Yarrow." Su Qian froze, then let go of him guiltily. "Go inside. Don't keep my sister waiting too long." Shen Lingmo stumbled into the room, unsteady on his feet. For some reason, a vague sense of unease had been gnawing at his heart all day. He quickened his pace, walking straight to the edge of the bed, staring at the bride sitting demurely on the bed. Shen Lingmo finally breathed a sigh of relief, his eyes softening with affection as he asked, "Tangyu, we're finally married. Are you happy?" But the bride sat motionless, saying nothing. Shen Lingmo leaned forward, reaching out to touch her, a smile tugging at his lips. "Why aren't you talking to me? Are you still jealous that I went to see Yarrow this morning? I told you before, once we're officially married, you will be my only wife." At the same time, Shen Lingmo lifted the red bridal veil. Beneath the bright red wedding curtains, the bride's face was revealed in full, her features delicate and beautiful, her skin like lotus petals, her eyebrows like willow leaves. The red candlelight flickered with a warm, golden glow, reflecting the whirlwind of emotions in Su Yarrow's heart. She had heard Shen Lingmo say that he still thought he was marrying Su Tangyu, but she was not worried at all. Her hand tightened instinctively around the wedding fruits scattered on the bed as she gave him a confident, triumphant smile. Her heart was filled with joy and shyness. She thought to herself, in the end, it is me who is marrying Shen Lingmo, who is bowing to heaven and earth with him, who is becoming his wife. From now on, all the happiness and glory in the world will be within my grasp. But her smile had barely spread across her face when she heard a voice of shocked disbelief from above her head. "Why is it you? Where is Tangyu?" At that moment, the sense of unease in Shen Lingmo's heart exploded into overwhelming panic, so much so that he did not dare to think about where Su Tangyu might be at this very moment. Could it be that she had gone to the northern Di tribe to marry their chieftain? Su Yarrow looked up. Meeting the man's eyes filled with surprise and a hint of fear, she smiled sweetly, reaching out to wrap her arms around Shen Lingmo's neck, her voice soft and coquettish. "Brother Lingmo, Today is our wedding day. I've finally fulfilled my wish to marry you. Are you happy? Let's consummate our marriage right now." But before she could finish speaking, Shen Lingmo roughly pushed her arm away. For the first time ever, he spoke to her with cold, sharp disapproval. "Explain yourself. How could you be the one marrying me, then who went to the northern Di tribe to fulfill the marriage alliance?" Su Yaroro's smile froze on her face. She had never imagined that at this moment, the person Shen Lingmo was most worried about was still Su Tangyu. She had stolen all the love and affection that should have belonged to Su Tangyu. Even Shen Lingmo, in their intimate moments together, had told her that he already regarded her as his wife, and yet he still refused to let Su Tangyu go to the northern Di tribe to marry the chieftain in her place. Bitterness welled up in Su Yaroro's heart as she looked at the tall, handsome man in front of her. She had tasted what it was like to be cherished by him. She would never give him back to Su Tangyu. A glint of determination flashed in Su Yaroro's eyes. She reached out her delicate, boneless hand to take Shen Lingmo's. Her fingers tracing circles lightly in his palm as she gazed at him with a seductive, pleading look. "Brother Lingmo, do you really have the heart to send me to marry those barbarians of the northern Di tribe?" Shen Lingmo's eyes darkened. He caught her wandering hand in his large palm, his tone softening considerably as he said gently, "Don't be childish. I don't want to send you away, but I have no other choice. Don't worry, I will come to fetch you back soon. The guards and maids I've prepared for you will protect you well. Besides, to ensure your safety during the 3 years you'll spend in the northern Di tribe, we've arranged for special guards and imperial physicians who will only obey your orders. Tangyu has nothing, she would be doomed if she went there. You are far more suitable for this mission." Su Yaroro could barely maintain her smile. Her eyes filled with tears of grievance as she asked, "Brother Lingmo, do you still love Sister Tangyu more than me?" Shen Lingmo brushed a hand through her hair, his voice comforting. "Be good. Tangyu will always be your sister. She and I will take care of you together." With that, he moved to help Su Yaroro get up, ready to send her away. Perhaps this was just a silly prank Su Yaroro had played because she could not bear to leave him. It did not matter, the marriage alliance procession could not have gone very far yet. He would go and bring Su Tangyu back right away, but just as he lifted his foot to take a step, there was a knock on the door. When he opened it, he found Crown Prince Su Qian standing outside. Seeing Su Yaroro's tear-streaked face, Su Qian shot her a comforting, reassuring look. He pulled Shen Lingmo aside to explain. Yaroro said she wanted to enter the Shen family's gate before going to the northern Di tribe for the marriage alliance. How could I bear to disappoint her? It was all my decision. Because I couldn't bear to see Yaroro sad. Don't blame her, don't worry, the marriage alliance has been postponed by 1 day. Tangyu is still in the palace. Tomorrow, you can go see her. Tonight is your wedding night. Don't let Yaroro down." Hearing that Su Tangyu was still in the palace, Shen Lingmo breathed a sigh of relief. He was about to rush into the palace to see her when Su Yaroro caught sight of his expression. She immediately clung to him, her voice filled with tears as she begged, "Brother Lingmo, we've already bowed to heaven and earth as husband and wife. Let's consummate our marriage first. Please, this is my last wish. Brother Lingmo, haven't we already made our feelings clear to each other? You told me once that if there were no engagement between you and Tangyu, you would definitely marry me. These days, I've dreamed of nothing but marrying you. I'm already yours, after all. Don't you want me to become your legitimate wife, openly and honestly?" Su Yaroro's eyes reddened with tears as she clung tightly to Shen Lingmo's hand, refusing to let go. "A wedding night only comes once in a lifetime. Let's not waste it, okay?" Watching Su Yaroro weep, her face as delicate as a pear blossom soaked in rain, Shen Lingmo hesitated. Seeing this, Su Qian deliberately added, "All right, you know how much Yaroro loves you. Stay with her tonight, and treat her well. I'll go back to the palace to take care of Tangyu. Tomorrow, when you and Yaroro return to the palace, you'll be able to see her. She won't disappear." Without waiting for Shen Lingmo to object, Su Qian turned and left, closing the door behind him and locking it with a click. Hearing the sound of the lock engaging, a triumphant smile spread across Su Yaroro's face. Her eyes brimming with tenderness, she wrapped her arms around Shen Lingmo from behind, her voice soft and seductive as she whispered, "Brother Lingmore, stop thinking about anyone else. Just for tonight, let it be just the two of us. Let's focus on each other. I want to conceive your child." The night passed. The next day, Su Yaoyao and Shen Lingmore, now officially husband and wife, returned to the palace to pay their respects to the Empress Dowager with tea. The Empress Dowager was overjoyed. She personally helped Su Yaoyao to her feet, showering her with affectionate questions about her well-being. Shen Lingmore watched this scene, a strange feeling stirring in his heart. His mind had been filled with thoughts all night, preventing him from sleeping a wink. For the first time ever, his mind had been consumed by thoughts of Su Tangyu. He wondered if she was heartbroken to learn that he had married Su Yaoyao. He wondered how she had spent the night alone. He wondered when he would finally be able to see her. Even though Su Qian had assured him that Su Tangyu was still in the palace, he could not shake the vague sense of unease that lingered in his chest. Until he truly married Su Tangyu, he could not shake the irrational fear that he would lose her forever, and he could not afford to lose her. As soon as the tea ceremony was over, Shen Lingmore took Su Yaoyao's hands in his voice earnest as he said, "Yao Yao, it's getting late. I'll escort you to the capital gate. You should depart for the northern Di tribe as soon as possible." His marriage to Tangyu could not be delayed any longer. Moreover, marrying Yao Yao first had already humiliated Tangyu, making her the laughingstock of the entire capital. He had long ago promised Tangyu that once she married him, she would never suffer another grievance again. He could not put it off for even one more day. At his words, a shadow of darkness flashed across Su Yaoyao's eyes. Today, to celebrate the wedding, the Empress Dowager had invited numerous noble ladies from the capital to congratulate her. She would never allow the guests to see her being rejected and humiliated in front of everyone. She noticed that Shen Lingmore kept glancing toward the palace gate, as if searching for Su Tangyu's figure. Her legs suddenly gave way, and she rolled her eyes, fainting dramatically. "Yao Yao, what's wrong with you? Send for the imperial physician at once." Chaos erupted in the palace chamber. Shen Lingmore forgot everything else. He lifted her in his arms and carried her into the inner room in a hurry. Su Yaoyao remained unconscious for the entire day. In the meantime, everyone crowded around her bedside, forgetting all about the wedding and the waiting guests. Finally, Lord Shen, who had been waiting in his manor for the new bride to arrive and pay her respects, sent someone to inquire about the delay. Only then did he learn that Su Yaoyao had fainted again, and his son had stayed by her side and not returned home. He immediately dispatched a servant to fetch Shen Lingmore. "Master, the Marquis says that now that the new bride has entered the Shen family, she may take charge of the household affairs. From now on, the Marquis's manor will be entrusted to Her Royal Highness." Shen Lingmore froze for a moment, finally remembering what day it was. "Tangyu hasn't entered the manor yet. I also forgot to tell her that the wedding has been postponed again. How is she doing now? I must go see her at once." Yao Yao was in no condition to depart for the marriage alliance right now, and his wedding to Tangyu had been delayed time and again. He felt a deep sense of guilt toward her. Overwhelmed by remorse, Shen Lingmore did not wait for his servant to reply. He strode toward Su Tangyu's palace without hesitation. As he passed the crown prince's palace, he unexpectedly heard Su Qian talking to one of his subordinates. Su Qian's voice was calm and unhurried. "Tell Yao Yao that I've ordered the marriage alliance procession to travel at top speed. If we delay them for 10 days, he will never be able to catch up." The subordinate bowed to receive the order, but hesitated for a moment before asking, "But Your Royal Highness, we just received word from the Northern Di Royal Court. Their old king is gravely ill, and the regime is in chaos. Sending the princess there now is really not a wise decision. Aren't you worried about her safety?" Su Qian raised his eyebrows in surprise, but his tone remained dismissive. "I've provided her with plenty of guards and money. I've also instructed the generals stationed at the border to keep an eye on her. If something happens to her despite all these precautions, then it's simply her fate." Shen Lingmore's footsteps came to an abrupt halt. The noise he made alerted Su Qian, who turned around and found himself face to face with Shen Lingmore's furious gaze. "I always thought you doted on Yao Yao the most, that you could never bear to see her suffer a single hardship." Shen Lingmore snarled, his voice trembling with rage. "Now you know full well that the northern Di tribe is in turmoil, and yet you can still coldly send her into that den of tigers and wolves." Seeing Shen Lingmore's anger, Su Qian breathed a sigh of relief. He had been worried that Shen Lingmore had found out the truth, that it was Su Tangyu who had gone to the northern Di tribe for the marriage alliance. Having witnessed Shen Lingmore's obsession and devotion to Tangyu in the past, Su Qian had been afraid that he would abandon everything to chase after her. Su Qian thought to himself that ever since Yao Yao had entered the palace, Tangyu had become more and more unruly. As a legitimate princess, she had repeatedly resorted to underhanded tactics to harm Yao Yao. They had spoiled her far too much. She needed to endure some hardships to teach her a lesson. This marriage alliance must not be disrupted, so he said calmly, "Why are you in such a hurry? Look at Yororo's condition, she's in no state to go to the northern Di tribe now." Shen Lingmore was about to retort when a soft voice sounded behind him. "Lingmore, Crown Prince brother, what's going on?" They turned around to see Su Yao walking toward them, her figure as delicate as a willow branch in the wind, her face pale as a sheet. All thoughts of their argument vanished from Su Qian and Shen Lingmore's minds. They hurried forward to support her, their voices soft with concern. "Why are you out of bed? Didn't the imperial physician order you to rest?" Su Yao had heard from her servants that Shen Lingmore had left in a hurry, so she had dragged herself out of bed to follow him. She glanced at the expressions on their faces, then spoke in a voice filled with remorse. "You're worried about the marriage alliance, aren't you? I'm so sorry, it's my poor health that's letting Great Yang down. Even though Sister Tangyu poisoned me 2 years ago and ruined my health, I shouldn't have been so cowardly. I shouldn't have cried to you about how I didn't want to take her place in the marriage alliance, how I was afraid I wouldn't survive in the northern Di tribe. If Sister Tangyu were here right now, I would tell her to her face that I am willing to go in her stead. It's the least I can do." Upon hearing this, Su Qian and Shen Lingmore's hearts were filled with overwhelming pity for her. Su Qian became even more determined to let Su Tangyu suffer the consequences of her actions, and Shen Lingmore, exactly as Su Yao had hoped, felt a surge of resentment toward Su Tangyu. He lifted Su Yao into his arms, letting his warm chest warm her cold, trembling body as he carried her back to the inner room. "This is not your fault," he whispered gently. "Entering into a marriage alliance is the duty of a princess. Tangyu is just being unreasonable, consumed by jealousy that you have won our affection. That's why she has made you endure all this. You just focus on getting better, don't think about anything else." That night, Shen Lingmore did not return to his own courtyard. He did not spare a single thought for Su Tangyu. No matter what happened, she would eventually enter the Shen family's gate as his wife. They would have a lifetime to spend together. Right now, the most important thing was to stay by Su Yaoiro's side. For the next 5 days, Su Yaoiro's condition fluctuated between improvement and relapse. Shen Lingmore stayed by her side in the West Palace, while Su Qian never left her side for a moment. Early one morning, a stray cat wandered into the palace, meowing loudly and waking Shen Lingmore from his fitful sleep. A heavy snow had fallen during the new year. But no one in the palace was in the mood to celebrate the festival, preoccupied as they were with Su Yaoiro's illness. The palace servants had been careless, failing to chase away the stray cats. Their meows added a faint touch of liveliness to the otherwise deathly silent palace. Shen Lingmore stared at the cat as it prowled around, its head turning this way and that, and suddenly, he was reminded that Su Tangyu loved cats too. Once upon a time, the palace had been filled with cats. All of them beloved pets of Su Tangyu. But after Su Yao entered the palace, having finally shed her timidity, the first request she had made was that she disliked cats, and asked if they could all be sent out of the palace. The Empress Dowager had granted her wish, ordering all the cats to be driven away that very night. Shen Lingmore had watched as Su Tangyu's eyes reddened with tears. On an impulse, he had kept a few of the cats in his family's manor, then later included them as part of his betrothal gifts, hoping to give her a pleasant surprise. He wondered if Su Tangyu had ever seen them, if she had liked them. Lost in thought, Shen Lingmore found his feet carrying him to the outside of Su Tangyu's palace before he even realized it. He saw a palace servant sweeping the courtyard, and asked, Has Princess Tangyu woken up yet? The servant was stunned by the question. Master Shen, Princess Tangyu is no longer in the palace. Have you forgotten? Shen Lingmore frowned, pointing at the several exquisite wooden birdcages in the courtyard, and the magnificent, brightly lit palace lantern hanging on the courtyard wall. Everything in Tangyu's palace is exactly as it was. How can you tell me she's not here? He remembered that palace lantern vividly. He had made it by hand for Su Tangyu's 10th birthday banquet. It had taken him nearly half a year to finish, and his hands had been covered in countless cuts and scrapes. Tangyu had held his hands in hers, her eyes filling with tears of sympathy, ordering him never to make anything so dangerous again. But back then, he had smiled and said to her, "You have all the finest silk gowns and delicacies. You have seen countless rare and precious things. But none of them can compare to the sincerity behind the gifts I give you. For you, I will always put my heart and soul into everything I do." He and Tangyu were meant to be together forever, never to be separated. The servant followed his gaze to the palace lantern, then suddenly realized, "Master Shen, those things were only moved back here on New Year's Eve. I heard that half a month ago. Princess Tangyu sent all these items back to the Marquis's manor. Princess Xiaoyao saw them and liked them very much. So she ordered the servants of the Marquis's manor to move them back here on New Year's Eve." Shen Lingmore froze, finally recalling that he had indeed received a report half a month ago, saying that Su Tangyu had sent a large number of items to the Marquis's manor. At the time, he had thought that she was simply eager to marry him, sending her belongings over in advance. He had felt a sense of superiority, even a touch of condescension, and had casually ordered his servants to put them away, to prevent her from using them as an excuse to come pestering him. When Xiaoyao had said she liked the things, he had casually agreed to give them to her. But now, seeing these familiar items arranged in Su Tangyu's palace, a vague sense of dread began to creep into his heart. That sense of dread deepened exponentially when he entered the palace and searched every room, only to find that Su Tangyu was nowhere to be seen. Shen Lingmore strode toward the Crown Prince's palace, determined to confront Su Qian and demand answers. As soon as he arrived, he heard sounds of laughter and merriment. Su Qian and Su Xiaoyao were joking around. Seemingly in high spirits, Shen Lingmore marched through the door, grabbed Su Qian by the arm, and dragged him outside. He glared at him, his voice sharp with urgency. "Where is Tangyu?" Su Qian's expression stiffened. "Why are you suddenly asking about Tangyu? Shouldn't you be more concerned about how Xiaoyao is feeling?" Shen Lingmore cut him off before he could finish, his voice trembling with barely suppressed panic. "I'm asking about Tangyu." He swallowed hard, his eyes fixed on Su Qian's face as he asked the question he was terrified to hear the answer to. "Tangyu is still in the palace, isn't she?" Thinking back to all the signs from New Year's Eve, he had a dreadful suspicion that he dared not fully acknowledge. He needed to hear a yes. He needed to be told that Su Tangyu was safe and sound in the palace, waiting for him to marry her. He and Su Xiaoyao had bowed to heaven and earth as husband and wife on New Year's Eve. Could it be that Tangyu had heard the news and, consumed by anger, had hidden herself away, refusing to show her face until he apologized? That must be it. Tangyu had always had such a fiery temper. She could never tolerate even the smallest betrayal. After a long, tense silence, Su Qian said with difficulty, "Yes, she's still in the palace." A burst of joy lit up Shen Lingmore's eyes. He could barely contain his eagerness. "Then I'm going to find her right now. I'll search every corner of the palace until I do." He turned to leave, but Su Qian grabbed him and pulled him back. Their eyes met. Shen Lingmore's expression gradually darkened, his eyes reddening with the intensity of his emotions, a dangerous sign of his impending recklessness. Su Qian's heart skipped a beat. He tightened his grip on Shen Lingmore, saying quickly, "Don't lose your temper. Didn't you petition the throne to lead troops against the Northern Di tribe, in 2 or 3 years at most? You'll be able to bring her back. Right now, the most important thing is to take care of Xiaoyao." As he spoke, Su Qian forcibly dragged Shen Lingmore to the door of Su Xiaoyao's chambers in the Crown Prince's palace, hoping that she could calm him down. But just as they reached the door, they heard Su Xiaoyao's voice inside, speaking in a low, conspiratorial tone to someone. "Why did it take you so long to get back to me? Tell me, has the man I sent to kill Su Tangyu succeeded? Both men froze in their tracks, their faces draining of color as they stared at each other in disbelief. A high-pitched voice replied to Su Yaoyao, "Your Highness, the man was dispatched as ordered. We haven't received word from him yet. Why is he taking so long?" Su Yaoyao snapped, her voice dripping with malice. "If Su Tangyu doesn't die, how can I win Brother Lingmore's heart completely?" Upon hearing these words, Shen Lingmore and Su Qian could contain their rage no longer. The door was kicked open with a loud crash. Su Yaoyao was leaning against the headboard, talking to an unfamiliar young eunuch. Both of them jumped in shock at the sudden intrusion, seeing the two men storming in, their faces contorted with anger. A flash of panic crossed Su Yaoyao's eyes, but she quickly composed herself. "Lingmore, Crown Prince brother, what are you doing here?" she asked, her voice sweet and innocent. Su Qian's face was dark with fury. "What did you just say?" "You sent someone to harm Tangyu." Su Yaoyao's eyes filled with tears instantly. "Crown Prince brother, what are you talking about? How could I ever harm my sister? I was just reading a storybook to the palace servants. I only mentioned sister's name because I'm jealous that Lingmore loves her more than me. I couldn't help but vent my frustration with a few angry words. Look at me. Brother, I'm just an orphan girl with no one to rely on in this palace. How could I possibly order anyone to do such a terrible thing for me?" Sure enough, a storybook was lying open beside her on the bed. The young eunuch standing beside her looked completely insignificant, a nobody who had not even managed to rise to the rank of a minor supervisor in the vast palace. Su Qian and Shen Lingmore exchanged uncertain glances, their anger wavering. Seeing their hesitation, Su Yaoyao clutched her chest, her face turning pale again as she gasped for breath. "Lingmore. Crown Prince brother, if you don't believe me, feel free to investigate. Ask any of my personal maids, or anyone I've ever met. Would any of them help me do something like that?" Her fragile, helpless appearance reminded them of the day she had first entered the palace, a trembling little girl standing alone under everyone's scrutinizing gazes, too scared even to ask for help. Their hearts softened instantly. "We never said we didn't believe you," they said quickly, their voices filled with concern. "Don't think too much about it. We know you're not capable of doing something like this." Watching as their expressions softened and they turned their attention back to her, concern evident in their eyes, Su Yaoyao lowered her gaze, a triumphant smile flashing across her face for a split second before she hid it again. After tucking Su Yaoyao into bed and making sure she was asleep, Shen Lingmore and Su Qian stepped out of the room one after the other. As soon as they left, Su Yaoyao's eyes flew open. She waved the young eunuch, who had been lingering outside the door, over to her bedside. This time, she did not speak. Instead, she wrote a few words in the palm of his hand. "If you can't kill her, spread the word that she's dead." The eunuch nodded slightly. He opened the door and walked out, then openly summoned a servant boy from the Marquis's manor to escort him back to the Empress Dowager's palace. Putting on a show of being nothing more than an ordinary, obedient servant, outside, the two men walked side by side along the corridor for a few steps in silence. Then Shen Lingmore spoke suddenly. "The imperial approval for my request to lead troops to the front has come through." Su Qian remained silent for a long moment before finally uttering a single syllable. "Good." The three of them, Shen Lingmore, Su Qian, and Su Tangyu, had grown up together since childhood. They knew each other far too well. Both men were acutely aware that when they had realized that Su Tangyu's name might be linked to the word death, their hearts had been filled with an indescribable sense of unease and turmoil. Right now, all they wanted was to see her with their own eyes, to confirm that she was still alive. Only then would they be able to rest easy. Shen Lingmore felt an even deeper sense of remorse. He had always thought that Tangyu would never dare to go through with the marriage alliance. When the Northern Di tribe had first sent envoys to request her hand in marriage, the Empress Dowager had entrusted him with the task of gathering intelligence on the tribe. He knew those barbarians inside out. The barbarians respected only strength. They knew nothing of culture or morality. They treated women like servants and concubines. He had told Tangyu all of this in great detail, scaring her so badly that she had had nightmares for several nights in a row, crying and begging him to marry her sooner. So why had she left without a word to marry the northern Di chieftain? The question lingered in his mind, but he already had a vague answer. Tang Yu must have found out about his relationship with Su Yaoyao. She loved him so deeply, she could never tolerate any betrayal. If she had learned the truth about his affair with Yaoyao, it was entirely possible that she had given up on him in a fit of anger and chosen to go through with the marriage alliance out of spite. Su Qian listened to his speculation in silence for a long time. Finally, he said coldly, Tang Yu has always been too impulsive. A little hardship will do her good. At his words, Shen Lingmore's head snapped up, his eyes blazing with anger as he glared at Su Qian. After a moment, he took a step back and knelt heavily on the ground. His voice hoarse with determination, I, Shen Lingmore, swear here and now, within 3 years, I will bring Princess Tang Yu back to Great Yang. If I fail to do so, I will gladly let my head be cut off on the battlefield of the northern border. Su Qian looked down at his resolute expression and sighed, nodding his head. Very well, bring Tang Yu back safely. Only after she has endured enough suffering will she learn to cherish all the things we have given her. Meanwhile, on the road to the northern Di tribe, it was the height of the New Year festival. The towns and post stations along the way were decorated with colorful lanterns and streamers, and the faces of the people were filled with joy and celebration. Su Tangyu watched the scene with a mixture of melancholy and relief, relieved that the common people were living in peace and prosperity, melancholy at the thought that she might never see her homeland again. She did not allow herself to dwell on her emotions for long. After a moment, she smiled and began summoning the officials and generals accompanying her one by one. Regardless of their rank or position, she asked each of them for their name and area of expertise, making preparations for her future plans in the northern Di tribe. To her surprise, 2 of the members of her entourage, a military general and a palace maid, treated her with an unusual degree of respect and deference, obeying her every command without hesitation. When I was young, my family were officials in the capital, the general, Lu Jiao, replied when Su Tangyu asked him about his loyalty. 10 years ago, we were wrongfully implicated in a corruption case involving the Minister of Justice. The entire family was sentenced to imprisonment and execution. It was Your Highness, the princess, who read the memorial and pointed out the flaws in the case, saving my family from certain death. As he spoke, the palace maid standing beside him, Bai Zhu, nodded her head vigorously. She was clearly also a member of the family he had spoken of, having been granted such a great kindness. Their lifelong wish had been to repay Princess Tongyue's generosity. When they heard that she had bravely agreed to the marriage alliance, they had volunteered to accompany her without a moment's hesitation. We can never hope to repay Your Highness for your great kindness, they said in unison. We can only offer you our unwavering loyalty and swear to protect your safety with our lives. Su Tangyu was surprised, then felt a wave of relief wash over her. Although she was well informed about the current situation in the northern Di tribe, she knew that if she wanted to gain a foothold there and live on her own terms, she would need capable people she could trust by her side. Otherwise, she would be helpless and alone. With the loyalty of these 2, she would no longer be without allies. The further north they traveled, the heavier the wind and snow became, and the more difficult the journey grew. It took the entire marriage alliance procession a full month and a half to finally reach the royal court of the northern Di tribe. By the time they arrived, the royal court was already making preparations for the funeral of the elderly chieftain, who was gravely ill and on his deathbed. Although he was still breathing, he could no longer move a muscle. His 3 sons had already begun to fight among themselves for the throne, plunging the entire tribe into chaos and civil strife. As soon as Su Tangyu arrived, she became a prize to be fought over by the 3 princes. The envoy sent by the eldest prince was arrogant and condescending. He addressed her as princess with his mouth, but his eyes stared at her lecherously, like a hungry wolf eyeing a piece of meat. He laughed loudly. Princess, rest for now. Once my master has taken care of his official business, he will come to take care of you. Ha ha ha. The crude insult enraged General Lu Jiao so much that he drew his sword, but Su Tangyu quickly stopped him. The envoy sent by the 2nd prince was more restrained. He simply bowed his head slightly and said in a calm, reassuring tone, Princess, please rest well. No matter what happens in the next 6 months, you will be our chieftain's wife. Just be patient and wait for your fate to unfold. Su Tangyu nodded slightly, saying nothing. She turned her gaze to the third prince. Unlike his brothers, the third prince had come in person. He stared at Su Tangyu in stunned admiration for a long moment before finally breaking into a smile and saying, "Princess, don't worry. Now that the Northern Di tribe has requested your hand in marriage, we will never let you suffer any grievances. If you ever find yourself in trouble, you can always come to me for help." The three princes had very different attitudes, but all of them were determined to win her hand, for whoever married the princess sent by Great Yang would be recognized as the new chieftain of the Northern Di tribe, inheriting all of the late chieftain's wealth and power to rule over the entire tribe. Although Su Tangyu was nominally betrothed to the elderly chieftain, she was now at the mercy of his warring sons. Worse still, if the Northern Di tribe split apart and the three princes began fighting separate wars against each other, her best-case scenario would be to become the shared wife of all three brothers, imprisoned like a trophy in the central royal tent. After the Northern Di envoys had left, Su Tangyu sat in silence for a long time. Bai Zhu could not contain her anxiety any longer. She asked hesitantly, "Your Highness, what do you plan to do? Should we pledge our allegiance to the third prince first?" Su Tangyu snapped out of her thoughts. She shook her head and smiled faintly. "No, right now, I want to see the elderly chieftain." That evening, inside the royal tent, Su Tangyu was granted an audience with the elderly chieftain in her capacity as his future wife. On the bed lay an old man of nearly 60, his face gaunt and withered like dead wood. A foul-smelling odor of medicine filled the air, making it almost unbearable to breathe, but Su Tangyu's gaze remained calm and steady as she looked at him lying on the bed and said clearly, "I can cure the epidemic that is plaguing the Northern Di tribe." At her words, the elderly chieftain suddenly sat up straight, his sunken eyes fixed on her with a piercing, intense gaze. "What did you say?" he rasped, his voice weak but filled with disbelief. Su Tangyu smiled slightly, repeating her words calmly and confidently as she asked him a question. "Great chieftain of the Northern Di tribe, do you want to live? Our Khan has actually recovered from his illness. Today, he even walked out of his royal tent to accept the allegiance of all the chieftains, great and small. That's not all. I heard the Khan publicly honored the princess of Great Yang, gave her many servants, allowed her to live freely in the royal city, and even let her choose who to marry. What a great privilege. I wonder how stunningly beautiful the princess of Great Yang is to have enchanted the Khan so completely." "Don't speak nonsense. I heard this princess brought divine medicine from Great Yang that can cure our epidemic." "What? Are you telling the truth? Is there hope for our epidemic to be cured?" The rough Northern Di tribesmen never knew how to speak softly. Their loud chatter reverberated from tent to tent, making it impossible for anyone to find peace and quiet. But Su Tangyu had grown accustomed to it. She stood quietly in front of her desk, listening to the elation outside, sparked by the treatment of the epidemic. In her past life, when Su Yarou had married into the Northern Di tribe, Shen Lingmore had always tried his best to gather news about the tribe, and he had also received letters sent by Su Yarou's attendants. She had thus learned a great deal about the Northern Di tribe as well, including information about this very epidemic. In her past life, the Northern Di tribe had ultimately gone to war with Great Yang, first, because the epidemic had become completely uncontrollable. After the old Khan's death, his three sons had all contracted the disease one after another, leaving the Northern Di with no choice but to invade the south to plunder medicinal herbs, sacrificing countless lives in the process. Second, because Su Yarou, despite having brought imperial physicians and medicinal supplies with her, had refused to let them help treat the sick. When this was discovered by those with ulterior motives, she had been brutally killed, completely tearing apart the fragile peace between the Northern Di tribe and Great Yang. Reborn in this lifetime, the first thing Su Tangyu had set out to do was to resolve the epidemic and delay the old Khan's death. If the Northern Di tribe descended into internal chaos, with no one strong enough to subdue all factions, they would inevitably invade the south to seize power. bringing disaster to Great Yang. She would not allow that to happen. Now that the Khan had recovered from his illness, she could proceed with her second plan. Su Tongyue's gaze shifted to the other person in the tent, the second prince of the northern Di tribe. This prince was tall and handsome, yet there was a gentle look in his eyes. When he held a book in his hands, he looked more like a scholar from Great Yang. It was said that he loved Han culture above all else. Sensing her gaze, the second prince smiled and said, "You actually have so many books on Han culture here. Do you also enjoy reading?" Su Tangyu replied calmly, "Of course I can read. In fact, I know more than you do, but I heard that Han women do not read books. They have little knowledge or insight." The second prince had several Han scholars by his side, and having listened to them talk at length about the customs of Great Yang, he had initially taken little interest in Su Tangyu. He only paid extra attention to people around him who could read and understand Han culture. But Su Tangyu did not argue with him. Instead, she said, "It is not that Han women do not read. It is simply that the common people you have met cannot afford to read. The common folk are poor, men and women alike cannot afford the luxury of education. All the people I brought with me can read. The Khan has allowed me to educate the people of the northern Di tribe. When the time comes, you will see for yourself." Since she had come for a marriage alliance, Su Tangyu had deliberately chosen her entourage with a preference for literate individuals. Those who understood reason would handle affairs much more smoothly. Educate the people of the northern Di tribe, make them recognize and embrace Han culture. Perhaps when the time was ripe, she could gain control of the Han-inhabited cities occupied by the northern Di tribe, thereby reclaiming those territories without having to wage war. These were Su Tongyue's secret plans. The second prince had no inkling of her thoughts. Recalling the people around her, he was somewhat convinced. "Perhaps what you say is true. I have been shallow in my understanding. Father has ordered me to assist you in spreading Han culture. If you need anything, just come to me directly." With the second prince's promise, Su Tangyu truly gained a great deal of freedom. She settled down peacefully in the northern Di tribe, sending her subordinates to educate the people. Before she knew it, her reputation had grown increasingly renowned. But the peaceful days lasted only 2 years before Su Tangyu was summoned by the Khan alone, the old Khan. His face growing gaunter by the day, recovered from his illness but now approaching the end of his natural lifespan, fixed her with a sharp gaze. He threw a battle report onto the table in front of her. "Great Yang has torn up the peace treaty and sent an army to attack us. Princess of Great Yang, what do you have to say about this?" Great Yang had broken the treaty, its troops marching straight toward the northern Di tribe. Leading the army was none other than Shenlingmo. He should have set out much earlier, but just before his departure, news of Su Tongyue's death had unexpectedly reached the capital. Upon hearing this news, he had vomited a mouthful of blood, fallen off his horse, and lost consciousness. In just 2 short years, news of Su Tongyue's death had been spread throughout Great Yang by those with ulterior motives. Shenlingmo had been gravely ill for the entire 2 years. During this time, he had been plagued by frequent nightmares. "You're saying you dreamed of the scene where Tangyu died a tragic death?" Su Qian stared at Shenlingmo in disbelief, wanting to berate him for cursing Tangyu. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. In the end, he simply took 2 steps back, looking away. "Tangyu cannot be dead, she left with so many people. If something had really happened to her, it is impossible that not a single one of them would have returned." Shenlingmo stared straight ahead, his mind still reeling from the vivid images of his nightmare. In the dream, Su Tangyu had stood before him, her face as pale as paper, vomiting blood repeatedly, yet her eyes had been fixed on him, demanding over and over again, "Why did you kill me? Why did you force me to drink the poisoned wine and torture me to death?" His chest ached so badly that he could barely breathe. Even though the pain had been Tongyue's in the dream, he had felt it as if it were his own. Blood trickled down the corner of his mouth. Tangyu must have been in so much pain. She was always so delicate and willful. She could never have endured such suffering. "They are torturing Tangyu." Shenlingmo's gaze shifted from heartbreak to blankness, then to a wild, bloodthirsty fury, staring in the direction of the northern border. He looked like a beast ready to pounce and tear anyone in his path to shreds. He did not know why he was having such a dream. He could only attribute it to one thing. Tang Yu was calling out to him for help, telling him of her agony. Thus, before his departure, his sword had been pointed directly at the northern Di tribe. I will bring Tang Yu back, even if it is only her bones. I will not let her remain in the northern Di tribe. The army marched swiftly, reaching the northern border at the fastest possible speed. Shen Lingmo did not rest for a moment. On the very day he took over command of the border defenses, he led his troops straight to the pastures of the northern Di herdsmen, instead of attacking cities. He burned their tents to the ground. The northern Di were a nomadic grassland tribe. Their herdsmen drove their cattle and sheep from place to place in search of water and grass, making them often difficult to track down. But Shen Lingmo did not care. Every day, he led his men out to the grasslands, killing anyone they encountered, convinced that he was avenging Tongyue's death. His brutal and violent behavior struck fear into the hearts of both the soldiers and the civilians at the border. No one dared to approach him. The northern Di herdsmen fled at the mere mention of his name. Early one morning, Shen Lingmo cut down the chieftain of a small northern Di tribe with a single thrust of his spear. Suppressing his growing impatience, he demanded, "Have the provisions and reinforcements not been gathered yet? General, the border region is poor and barren. The imperial grain supplies will not arrive for another month. It is truly not advisable to launch an attack now." A general replied tremblingly. In the next moment, a sharp blade pierced his hand. Shen Lingmo's eyes blazed with violence. "Then find a way to gather them by any means necessary. I want to storm the cities in half a month's time and slaughter every last man, woman, and child of the northern Di tribe. Yes, yes." The soldiers and generals surrounding him scattered in a hurry. Shen Lingmo was left alone, looking up at the vast, high sky, whispering softly, "Tang Yu, wait for me." Little did he know that the Su Tang Yu he yearned for so desperately was sitting on horseback, standing on a high hillside, watching him from afar. By her side stood Lu Jiao, clad in armor and holding a sharp weapon, acting as her silent bodyguard. The second prince rode his horse on her other side, his gaze occasionally drifting to her, almost imperceptibly. Next to him was the first prince, tall, muscular, handsome yet wild at heart. Seeing Su Tangyu staring into the distance, lost in thought, the first prince tapped his horse's head with his whip and asked in a menacing tone, "Princess of Great Yang, didn't you say you had a way to make the Great Yang army withdraw?" Before Su Tangyu could reply, he scoffed disdainfully, "I heard you were once betrothed to that general from Great Yang. Could it be that you planned to kneel before his horse and beg him to turn back?" The first prince's face was filled with open contempt for Su Tangyu, princess of Great Yang. "Let me tell you something, talking about feelings with a man is nothing but nonsense. He watched you marry someone else without uttering a single word of protest. Do you really expect him to obey your every command? If you are truly afraid that father will hold you accountable, you might as well marry the third prince as soon as possible and let him protect you." The first prince had no interest in Su Tangyu himself, and he knew that the second prince did not like Han women either. Thus, pushing her onto the third prince would be a win-win situation for everyone. Before Su Tangyu could speak, Lu Jiao, who stood beside her, could contain his anger no longer. "If you dare to speak to Her Highness in such a disrespectful manner again, I will kill you." The first prince glared at him fiercely. "Come on then. I'll cut you down first, right here and now." A fight seemed imminent, but the second prince stepped in to mediate in time. "I believe Her Royal Highness has already made up her mind. Brother, please say no more." It took a long while for the tension to subside. Only then did Su Tangyu answer the first prince's earlier question. "Just wait and see." With those words, she turned her horse around and left, summoning the guards she had brought with her for the marriage alliance. Great Yang needs peace, but this general is attacking the northern Di tribe without rhyme or reason, threatening the peace of the people. "We must persuade him to withdraw his troops," Su Tangyu declared loudly, speaking lofty and righteous words. Beneath the cover of her guards' unanimous chorus of agreement, she slipped a note into the hand of one of them. Written on it were the words, "The time has come, seize power." Ever since she had cured the northern DI epidemic, she had not been kept under close surveillance in the royal city. Furthermore, the northern DI tribe paid little attention to the cities they had occupied. Allowing the Han people there to govern themselves, this had made it easy for her to plan many things. At the very least, within the cities that originally belonged to Great Yang, she had found many knowledgeable individuals who were plotting to return to Great Yang's rule. The northern DI tribe's occupation of Great Yang's cities, coupled with their appointment of surrendered generals to govern them, had been a very tricky problem to solve. This time, she had boasted to the old Khan and promised him, "Let the people of Great Yang fight against the people of Great Yang," without wasting a single northern DI soldier. This was the perfect opportunity to wipe out these surrendered factions in one fell swoop. After the guards withdrew, only Lu Jiao and the palace made by Zhu remained in the tent. Lu Jiao was still brooding over the first prince's words. "Your Highness, why must you endure such disrespect from the first prince?" The imperial physician took the old Khan's pulse and said he will die within this month. "Why don't we directly support the second prince to ascend the throne? With the second prince's obedience to you, we will be able to openly take control of the northern DI tribe." Su Tangyu smiled when she heard this. "No, the second prince is not truly obedient to me. His people and his tribe are far more important to him. Leaving him as the sole ruler would be nothing but trouble. I would end up being nothing more than his decorative, figurehead wife." When she had arrived 2 years ago, the northern DI tribe could not afford to fall into chaos, because she had no foundation in the northern DI tribe, no soldiers under her command, and no backing whatsoever. She could not have influenced anything if the barbarians had descended into civil war. She would have had no choice but to let them fight among themselves until a single king emerged victorious from the bloodshed. But now, she had firmly established her foothold in the northern DI tribe. Times have changed, Lu Jiao. I cannot afford to have an absolute ruler above me right now. Otherwise, without the old Khan's clouded judgment, he would detect the unrest in the occupied Great Yang cities, and I would be the one in danger. Once the old Khan passes away, the 3 princes will fight tooth and nail for the throne. Only then, having already integrated myself into their society, can I seize the opportunity to take control of the cities that originally belonged to Great Yang. If Great Yang had kept the peace and refrained from waging war against the northern DI tribe at this moment, she was confident that within 20 years, she could rally the forces of the occupied Great Yang cities, completely dismantle and eliminate the northern DI tribe, and even drive them far away from Great Yang's borders. Unfortunately, why had Shen Lingmo torn up the peace treaty and insisted on pointing his sword at the northern DI tribe? It was her who had married into the tribe, not Su Yaoyao. Did he have any legitimate reason to launch this attack? Only Shen Lingmo could provide the answer to that question. Thus, 5 days later, Shen Lingmo laid eyes on the living, breathing Su Tangyu. Clang! His weapon hit the ground with a loud crash. Shen Lingmo stared at Su Tangyu in stunned silence, his gaze so intense it seemed as if he wanted to bore a hole through her. Tangyu. That day, Shen Lingmo had received intelligence and led a small detachment deep into the grasslands to wipe out a small northern DI tribe. But no sooner had they arrived, and he had given the order to attack, than an arrow came flying straight toward his face. He raised his hand to block it, and was about to hurl his spear back in retaliation, when his eyes met Su Tengyu's calm, unflinching gaze. Overwhelmed by shock, he lost his balance and fell off his horse, his weapon slipping from his grasp, even though the barbarian chieftain in front of him was still raising his blade to strike at him. Shen Lingmo remained rooted to the spot, his eyes fixed on her, afraid that if he blinked, the figure before him would vanish like an illusion. "Tangyu." Shen Lingmo's lips trembled as he asked, "Tangyu, you're alive, aren't you? This isn't a dream, you're really alive, right?" He had been driven almost to the brink of madness by those recurring nightmares. 4 days and nights, he had dared not close his eyes, fearing he would once again witness the horrifying scene of Tengyu's death. The pain had been unbearable, but now, he was no longer afraid. Su Tangyu was not dead, she was alive and well, staring coldly at him. He ached to touch her, to feel the beating of her living heart, He rushed forward to her horse without a second thought, and when a spear tip was pointed at him, he merely raised his arm to block it, as if he felt no pain at all. He stumbled to the front of her horse. Su Tangyu watched him rush toward her recklessly, as if she meant everything to him. She merely frowned and said, "What are you doing?" The moment the words left her mouth, her anger flared even hotter. "Why did you tear up the peace treaty and insist on attacking the Northern Di tribe? Why did you condemn the people of Great Yang to the suffering of war? What was the point of my marriage alliance, if this is how things turn out?" Her rapid-fire questions did nothing to clear the fog from Shen Lingmore's mind. He threw his arms around her legs, his voice a desperate murmur. "We thought you were dead, Tang Yu. We all thought you were dead." No one would ever know the profound emptiness that had engulfed his heart the moment he heard the news of Su Tongyue's death. From the very moment he and Tang Yu had pledged their lives to each other, he had sworn that he would live and die by her side. If danger ever came their way, he would be the one to die first, so that she would never have to face the storms of life alone. But Tang Yu had gone ahead and married into the Northern Di tribe without a word. And then died such an inexplicable death. He could never accept that. For the past 2 years, his chest had been filled with seething rage, his mind teetering on the edge of madness. At this moment, anyone could see that Tang Yu was his entire world. Shen Lingmore bared his heart and soul to her, but Su Tangyu had no patience to listen. She kicked him away and snapped, "I'm asking you a question. Why are you attacking the Northern Di tribe?" Her face was cold with anger, her eyes blazing brightly. The sight left Shen Lingmore in a daze. It hit him then that he had not seen her angry in a long time, especially before she left for the marriage alliance. Whenever she saw him fawning over Su Yaoyao, she would always glare at him, demanding that he not ignore her. But at some point, she had grown so indifferent, as if she no longer cared about him at all. Shen Lingmore's mind cleared a little, but an inexplicable sense of panic welled up in his chest. "Tang Yu, come back to Great Yang with me. I didn't know it was you who was being sent for the marriage alliance 2 years ago. If I had known, I would never have let you come. You are the precious little princess of Great Yang, held in the palm of our hands. How could I let you endure such hardships?" His words were earnest, as if they truly came from the bottom of his heart. But Su Tangyu merely let out a cold laugh. "I have not suffered any hardships in the Northern Di tribe. Could the bitter cold of the Northern Di lands compare to the pain she had endured in the imperial palace of Great Yang? In her past life, Shen Lingmore had even wanted to tie her up and send her to the grasslands to take Su Yaoyoro's place in the marriage alliance. There was no need for him to put on such a hypocritical act now." Her voice was icy as she said, "Whatever you are planning, leave at once. Withdraw your troops. Su Yaoyao and your child are still waiting for you back home." At her words, Shen Lingmore froze completely, his face turned as pale as a sheet. Only then did anyone notice that the hair at his temples had already started to turn white. It was clear how much the past 2 years had taken a toll on his mind and body. When he heard Su Tangyu mention Su Yaoyao, he immediately retorted, his voice urgent. "No, Tangyu, Yaoyao is not carrying my child. There is nothing between me and Yaoyao. I only see her as a younger sister. I just took care of her because she was so pitiful." He was about to add that he had only looked after Su Yaoyao to help her make amends for her jealousy and the underhanded things she had done to hurt Yaoyao, but then he saw the cold, indifferent look in Su Tongyue's eyes. She was looking at him with a gaze that saw through every lie he told. With a sinking heart, Shen Lingmore realized that she knew everything. She knew it all, and that was why she had resolutely agreed to the marriage alliance, left him behind, and generously given him to Su Yaoyao. The only time a woman showed such generosity was when she no longer loved. A metallic taste of blood filled Shen Lingmore's throat. "Tang Yu, I'm sorry." He knelt down on the ground, hiding the blood trickling from the corner of his mouth from her sight, and apologized sincerely. "Believe me, my moment of weakness with Su Yaoyao meant nothing. It was a mistake, a momentary lapse in judgment. I do not love her. I swear, I will never see Su Yaoyao again. I will never have anything to do with her. If you do not wish to return to the capital, that is fine. Once I have wiped out the Northern Di tribe, we can stay at the border, far away from all the disputes. We can spend the rest of our lives together." Just the two of us. Please, wipe out the northern Di tribe. Su Tangyu did not listen to a single word he said after that, only those 5 words registered in her mind. In the end, he still refused to withdraw his troops. Do you want me to die that badly? Su Tongyue's question took Shen Lingmo by surprise. What? Su Tongyue's eyes glinted with cold fury. I thought I had already retreated to the edge of the cliff. I never imagined you would want to push me off. His sudden decision to send troops to find her on the surface. It seemed like he was apologizing to her, like his old feelings for her still lingered, but in reality, it was nothing more than an attempt to have her killed. After she had married into the northern Di tribe, Great Yang had taken the initiative to start a war. Was that not a clear sign that they wanted her dead? Unlike Su Yaoyao in her past life, she did not have an entire army at her disposal, nor did she have 3 years of careful planning by the Crown Prince and Shen Lingmo to rely on. If war had broken out at this time, and she had still been the same person she was 2 years ago, the old Khan would have undoubtedly executed her publicly to rally his troops. If he wanted to harm her, then she had no choice but to strike first. With her mind made up, before Shen Lingmo could react, she drew the long sword hanging from her horse and drove it straight into his chest. The blade slid in without any resistance. She froze in shock. Shen Lingmo stared at her in disbelief. His eyes widening in horror, their gazes locked for a heartbeat, and then, one of Shen Lingmo's generals let out a loud roar. Protect the general. The clashing of weapons erupted once more. The soldiers of Great Yang shielded Shen Lingmo and retreated rapidly toward the border city. Su Tangyu did not make any attempt to stop them. Instead, she ordered her soldiers to rein in their horses and watched them disappear into the distance. Several of the Great Yang generals breathed a sigh of relief. Their subtle vigilance toward Su Tangyu fading considerably. Suddenly, the thunderous sound of hooves echoed across the grasslands. Leading the charge was none other than the first prince. He led a detachment of cavalry straight toward the injured Shen Lingmo, laughing loudly as he charged. Now that the commanding general of Great Yang is wounded, let's take his head, men. Whoever kills that Shen Lingmo today and helps me capture the Great Yang border city tomorrow will be granted the title of prince when I ascend the throne. At his words, the barbarian warriors behind the first prince roared with excitement, yelling war cries as they prepared to charge at the retreating Great Yang army. Whoosh! A sharp arrow cut through the air, shot with tremendous force toward the first prince's head, splattering blood everywhere. The first prince screamed in agony as the arrow struck, his eyes flooded with blood, plunging him into darkness. Amidst the frantic concern of his subordinates, he fought through the pounding pain in his chest and looked at Su Tangyu with his remaining good eye. The woman he had dismissed as weak and harmless was standing there, holding a bow in her hand, her voice cold and clear. First prince, everything I do is to protect the people of Great Yang, not to defect to the northern Di tribe. If you dare to lay a hand on a general of Great Yang, I will take your life first. Shen Lingmo was carried back to the border city by his generals. Ever since Su Tangyu had stabbed him, he had been unconscious. As soon as they returned to the city, he was rushed into a room for emergency treatment. The generals were left waiting outside. They exchanged glances, then could not help but start whispering among themselves. Princess Tangyu is actually alive. Then our unprovoked attack on the northern Di tribe was nothing but a move to harm the princess. I had a feeling the princess might still be alive all along. The news of her death came from the capital, but we saw her cross the border safely with our own eyes. The northern Di tribe never sent any word of her death either. Quit spouting nonsense after the fact. Everyone knows the princess is alive now, and she was the one who stabbed our commanding general, General Shen. She had no other choice. General Shen refused to withdraw his troops. The princess must have been cornered by those northern Di barbarians. To make us leave, she even turned against the first prince. I wonder if she'll be in danger now. If only we had marched out of the city with our full army just now, we could have taken the princess back with us. Don't even mention it. We only made it back safely because the princess protected us. General Shen really messed up this time. If he couldn't bear to let the princess marry far away, why didn't he find a substitute bride? Now that she's already married into the tribe, he comes charging after her like this. Yeah, The princess only has a few hundred men with her. She can't even guarantee her own safety. This is nothing but a disaster for her. Meanwhile, Su Tangyu, the very princess they were all worrying about, returned to her tent. The first prince, gravely wounded by her arrow, had been carried away by his subordinates to find a healer, leaving the area in chaos. A short while later, the second prince arrived to see Su Tangyu. Seeing Su Tangyu sitting safely inside the tent, the second prince finally relaxed his anxious expression. He carefully scanned her for any injuries while asking, "What did you do to anger eldest brother?" Su Tangyu hung up her cleaned bow and arrow, then sat back down at the desk to read. She replied without looking up, "I've turned against him." The second prince looked somewhat helpless. "Your Highness, why must you provoke eldest brother? He's arrogant and brutish when it comes to employing people. He cares nothing for character or morality, only for who can bring him victory. All sorts of scoundrels surround him. If you quietly go about educating the people, no one will bother you. But if eldest brother is enraged, you'll be drowned in endless troubles. Those men would even dare to sneak into your tent." Noticing his genuine concern, Su Tangyu couldn't help but chuckle. "Even though we aren't married, I am still the Khan's consort. I'll be fine." Her words only made the second prince frown deeper. "You still intend to marry eldest brother? He detests weak women and cares nothing for beauty. He will never marry you." Su Tangyu was confused. When had she ever said she wanted to marry the first prince? Watching as the second prince launched into a litany of the first prince's flaws, Su Tangyu fell into thought. Following this line of reasoning, she asked, "Then who would be willing to marry me?" "The third prince." The second prince immediately shook his head nervously. "Third brother does love beautiful women, and he has said he would gladly marry you. But he is surrounded by countless beauties. I'm afraid you would never hold a place in his heart." Su Tangyu didn't think that a princess sent for a marriage alliance needed to worry about her position in her future husband's heart, but she seemed to catch a hint of something and pressed further. "Then, what about you?" A faint flush rose to the second prince's fair cheeks made pale by years of reading rather than fighting. His handsome features were enough to make any girl's heart skip a beat. Yet his gaze was not the least bit shy. He said frankly, "Marry me, and from now on, everything I have will be yours." Su Tangyu hadn't expected such straightforwardness. She was stunned for a moment. Just then, a servant rushed in from the old Khan's tent, urgently summoning her. Su Tangyu's heart skipped a beat, thinking the old Khan's time was up. She didn't spare the second prince another glance and hurried over at once. Seeing the Khan sitting steadily on his throne, she let out a sigh of relief. Then she heard him ask, "Princess of Great Yang, my eldest son wishes to marry you. What do you think?" After spending a quarter of an hour in the old Khan's presence, Su Tangyu returned to her own tent. Baizhu, who had accompanied her, was in a state of panic. "Your Highness, what shall we do now? Are you really going to marry him?" Judging by the old Khan's attitude, he intended to tie Su Tangyu firmly to the northern Di tribe before his death. Once the marriage candidate was decided, the wedding would take place immediately. When Su Tangyu had first arrived in the northern Di lands, she had planned to establish herself here, trading years of careful maneuvering for peace with Great Yang. But now, Great Yang had already massed its army, and it would not easily withdraw. If Su Tangyu was further bound to the northern Di tribe, the dangers she faced would multiply endlessly. Marry whom? The second prince was still waiting in the tent. He heard Baizhu's question and asked in confusion. Baizhu stiffened, realizing she had spoken out of turn, and fell silent. But Su Tangyu replied without hesitation, "The Khan says the first prince is willing to marry me. Our wedding will be in 10 days. At her words, the second prince's face turned as white as a sheet. He locked eyes with Su Tangyu for a moment, confirming she was telling the truth, then turned and hurried toward the door. "I'm going to speak to father and eldest brother. Don't be afraid, I won't let you suffer any grievances." It was clear he thought she was being forced into the marriage and was going to fight for her justice. She made no move to stop him, merely watching him leave before turning her gaze back to Baizhu. "Baizhu, the imperial physician said the old Khan won't live past 10 days, correct?" Baizhu lowered her eyes and replied respectfully, "Yes, Your Highness." The young eunuch we uncovered 2 years ago, the one who had ulterior motives against you, has also been passing information to the old Khan. He knows every move you make." Su Tangyu nodded slowly. "The old Khan wants the first prince to succeed him, so he's arranging this marriage first, then he'll drive the second and third princes out of the royal city, securing the northern Di regime. The clans backing the second and third princes will never accept this. There will certainly be a great upheaval. That will be our chance to stir unrest in the great Yang cities occupied by the northern Di tribe, raise our banners, recruit soldiers, and lead those cities to return to Great Yang in one fell swoop." When Su Tangyu finished speaking, Baizhu nodded firmly. "Your Highness, this servant will find an opportunity to send word to our subordinates in the Great Yang border city, so they can make their preparations." At the Great Yang border city, apart from the subordinates maintaining contact with Su Tangyu, the other Great Yang generals had gathered once again, sitting in awkward silence. They had just received a simple message. Princess Tangyu was to marry the first prince of the northern Di tribe. These generals served under Shenlingmo, taking direct orders from him. They dared not tell him this news. After all, it was Su Tangyu who had stabbed Shenlingmo with her own hands. The general was still unconscious, and in his delirium and fever, he called out Su Tangyu's name again and again. They debated for days, but could think of no solution. When Shenlingmo finally woke up, they had no choice but to tell him the truth about Su Tangyu's impending marriage, word for word. "What did you say?" Shenlingmo's face turned deathly pale, perhaps because his heartbreak had worsened. Even though he had only been unconscious for a few days, dark circles hung beneath his eyes, his cheeks were gaunt, and he looked utterly wretched. He didn't wait for the generals to repeat themselves. With a sudden movement, he drew his sword from beside the bed and stumbled toward the door. "I won't let those barbarians dishonor her. I'm going to bring Tangyu home." Watching him rush out, driven mad by desperation, the generals panicked and scrambled to stop him. But before they could utter a single word of persuasion, a clear, joyful voice rang out from the courtyard gate. "Brother Lingmo." It was Su Yaoyao. Su Yaoyao had arrived with the army's provisions, enough to last only 3 months. She was eager for Great Yang to take the initiative to wage war. Then the eunuch she had sent could stir up trouble in front of the old Khan, inciting him to have Su Tangyu executed. A flash of cruelty flickered in her eyes, but when she looked at Shenlingmo, her expression turned soft and fragile once more. "Brother Lingmo, aren't we going to attack the northern Di tribe? Our soldiers are strong and our horses are sturdy. We'll definitely wipe them out within 3 months." Su Yaoyao threw herself into Shenlingmo's arms, completely ignoring the sword in his hand. She was utterly confident that Shenlingmo would never hurt her. Indeed, Shenlingmo froze for a moment. Having just woken up from his illness, his body was still weak. He had rushed out only on a surge of sheer willpower. The impact of her embrace made him stagger unsteadily. His head swam with dizziness, and before his eyes, he seemed to see Su Tangyu's face contorted in agony as she was poisoned. His heart twisted with pain, and he pushed Su Yaoyao away roughly. "What are you doing here? Shouldn't you be in the capital, accompanying the Empress Dowager?" Caught off guard by his rejection, Su Yaoyao looked wronged. "I want to stay by your side, always." She stood there, delicate as a willow branch in the wind, her eyes glistening with tears as she wept. "Brother Lingmo, I know you still miss Sister Tangyu, but I'm more worried about your health. Don't worry, even though Sister harmed me and ruined my health years ago, for your sake, I will take good care of myself." The rest of Su Yaoyao's words faded into a blur in Shenlingmo's ears. Only one phrase echoed endlessly in his mind. Su Tangyu had harmed her. He had heard those words countless times before, but it was only now that a wild thought erupted in his mind. No one harmed Su Yaoyao, it was all a lie. But before he could deny the accusation, his consciousness slipped into darkness. In his delirium, he had a dream of his past life. He dreamed of the day Su Tangyu died a tragic death. It was he who had personally forced the poisoned wine down her throat. Afterward, he didn't spare her a single glance. He turned and walked out of that dilapidated room, pulling a letter from his bosom. It was a letter written in Su Yaoyoro's blood. "Brother Lingmo, I don't know what I did wrong. I did everything Su Tangyu wanted. I went to the northern Di tribe for the marriage alliance, but she still wants me dead. Perhaps Sister Tangyu is just too jealous that I have your love. That's why neither I nor our child can escape death. I don't hate her, Brother Lingmore. At least she loves you. It was a suicide note, just a few pages, stained with tears, every word dripping with blood, so he had believed every word of it. He had thought that Su Tangyu had relentlessly pursued Su Yaoyao even after she had gone to the northern Di tribe, consumed by rage. He had personally fed her the poisoned wine. Only after reading the letter, when his anger had cooled, did a wave of agony wash over him. In that moment, he thought in despair, why couldn't Tangyu and Yaoyao just coexist? When he saw Su Tengyu's cold, lifeless body, a piece of his heart had been torn away. A searing, throbbing pain spread through his entire body, making it almost impossible to breathe. He had launched a reckless, fearless campaign against the northern Di tribe. It had taken him 3 years, but he had finally brought Su Yaoyoro's bones back to Great Yang. On the day Su Yaoyoro was buried in the imperial mausoleum of Great Yang, he had drunk a bowl of poisoned wine himself, to atone for killing Su Tangyu with his own hands, to atone for failing to protect the girl he had once promised to safeguard for the rest of his life. But Shun Lingmore had never expected that just as he lay dying from the poison, Crown Prince Su Qian would burst into his room, clutching him frantically and shouting, "It wasn't Tengyu's doing. It was all a scheme orchestrated by Su Yaoyao herself. She was never even pregnant with your child. That letter was written to make you hate Tangyu. Where is Tangyu? Quick, let Tangyu go." When Shun Lingmore finally woke up, he couldn't tell the difference between reality and dreams. Between his past life and his present one, he only remembered that in his final moments, Su Qian had laid out all the evidence of Su Yaoyoro's deception before his eyes, and he couldn't utter a single word, because he could never give Su Qian back a living Su Tangyu. He had sent her to her grave with his own hands. Recalling that final scene from his past life, Shun Lingmore opened his mouth and let out a hoarse, blood-curdling scream. "Aya!" He raised his hands, one clutching his abdomen tightly, the other digging into his own throat. The sensations of suffocation and agony washed over him. It was as if he could feel the excruciating pain Su Tangyu had endured in her final moments. On that day in his past life, a servant had told him that she had writhed in pain for hours, weeping endlessly, until her blood soaked the floor. The poisoned wine had burned through her intestines, rotting her from the inside out. What had seemed like a trivial act back then now filled him with unbearable, heart-rending agony. Tears streamed down Shun Lingmore's face. He couldn't tell whether the pain in his body was worse than the pain in his heart. "Brother Lingmore, you're awake." Suddenly, a voice of delighted surprise came from the door, and Su Yaoyoro's face appeared before his eyes. Seeing him hurting himself so violently, she froze for a moment. "Lingmore, what are you doing?" Su Yaoyoro's face jolted Shun Lingmore back to reality in an instant. He stared at her intensely, his grip on his throat and abdomen slowly loosening. Only at this moment did he finally snap out of the 2-year-long nightmare. Recalling all the things he had done, Su Yaoyao felt her scalp tingle under his gaze, her eyes darting away nervously. After a moment, she picked up a wrung-out cold towel and tried to wipe the sweat from his forehead, her voice softening. "Brother Lingmore, you've been unconscious for 10 days. Are you still feeling unwell? I'll go get the imperial physician." Before she could finish, Shun Lingmore suddenly grabbed her by the neck. His eyes blazed with fierce rage. "You wanted to kill Tangyu, didn't you? How dare you harm her?" His sudden outburst left Su Yaoyao stunned, but she quickly burst into tears. "I didn't, I really didn't, Brother Lingmore. Are you heartbroken because sister is marrying that barbarian? But this is her own choice, she just wants to live a better life." The word marry hit Shun Lingmore like a red-hot iron, and he released his grip abruptly. "That's right. Tangyu is still in the hands of those barbarians. I have to go save her." Ignoring Su Yaoyao, who collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath as if she had just escaped death, he got up and dressed himself, put on his armor, and grabbed his weapons. At the same time, inside Su Tengyu's tent, 2 years ago, Su Tangyu had brought all her wedding belongings to the northern Di tribe. Over the past 2 years, Most of them had been used up to improve the lives of the border people. Now the tent was filled with the first prince's private property, gold, silver, jewelry, rare antiques, making Su Tangyu look even more magnificent than she had 2 years ago. Bai Zhu was combing Su Tangyu's hair and helping her change into her wedding dress. Sighing softly as she spoke, "Your Highness, the first prince truly cares for you. He specially ordered that the wedding follow Han customs, and the ceremony will be held on the city gate tower of the Great Yang City. He even forced all the northern DI generals to learn Han etiquette, ordering everyone to treat you with the utmost respect. He has also sent all his private property to you. He's really put his heart into it. If you marry him willingly, perhaps you could live a peaceful life." Su Tangyu smiled faintly, saying only, "The people of Great Yang are more important." A look of admiration and pride flashed in Bai Zhu's eyes, and she said no more. Dawn broke, painting the sky with faint light. The usually bustling royal tent was eerily quiet now, with everyone holding their breath. Su Tangyu's wedding sedan chair was carried from the royal tent to the occupied Great Yang City. When she stepped out, all the northern DI generals bowed and saluted her awkwardly in accordance with Han etiquette, treating her with great deference. Beside her, the guards sent by the first prince to protect her were all cautious, not daring to lift their heads. She walked all the way into the main hall on the city gate tower. The first prince, dressed in his wedding robes, stared at her with bright eyes, about to speak. Suddenly, the voice of a soldier rang out from outside the tent. "Khan, first prince. Great Yang's army is attacking the city." The air fell silent, thick with the tension of a volcano about to erupt. Everyone's gaze turned to Su Tangyu, sharp and cold, as if they wanted to crush her with their stares. Su Tangyu's expression remained calm, and she was about to speak when the first prince suddenly took her hand. The man, who had practiced martial arts all his life, had warm, calloused palms, though his grip was strong enough to crush a man's skull with one punch. It was surprisingly gentle now, holding her hand carefully. The first prince, with his heroic features, blushed slightly, but his voice was hearty as he laughed. "Just as you expected, those Great Yang dogs really did come to attack. You've already arranged the defenses, haven't you?" At his words, the heavy tension in the air eased. Su Tangyu smiled along with him. "I've been ready for a long time. I won't let anything ruin my wedding day." Hearing this, the first prince was filled with joy. He still couldn't figure out how the hands he was holding now had shot the arrow that had wounded him. They were not the hands of a weak woman, they were the hands of a valiant heroine. But it was that very arrow that had left a scar on his face, and a scar in his heart that he could never forget. Once he had set his sights on someone, he was not one to waste time. He had wanted to marry her and bring her to his side immediately, and because of that, he had outpaced his second brother by more than just a little. Thinking of this, the corners of the first prince's mouth turned up. "The one attacking outside is that general you were once betrothed to, isn't it? He sent you to the northern DI tribe, and now he wants you back. Too late. Forget about him for now. Let's finish the wedding ceremony first. After that, I'll help you teach him a lesson he'll never forget." Su Tangyu nodded. "Then let's proceed with the ceremony." She didn't even glance at the tent door, following the first prince into the inner hall, leading her to stand before the old Khan. The first prince signaled to the Great Yang ritual officer. The ritual officer understood immediately, raising his voice in a loud chant. The bride and groom bow to heaven and earth. As the words fell, a distant roar seemed to echo through the air. No, but the two paid it no heed, bowing to heaven and earth together, then bowing to each other as husband and wife. When all the rituals were completed, everyone let out a sigh of relief. The first prince's face lit up with joy, and he couldn't contain himself. He pulled Su Tangyu into a tight embrace, shouting, "My wife, now you're my princess." He spun her around several times excitedly, laughing boisterously. "Let's go. Let's cut off the head of that Great Yang general who dared to disturb your wedding and offer it as a sacrifice to our battle flags." Su Tangyu was caught off guard by the warmth of his broad chest pressing against hers. She found his straightforward, unreserved way of speaking rather refreshing. The customs of the northern DI tribe were truly nothing like those of Great Yang, but she quickly composed herself, following the first prince to the city wall. Her eyes met Shen Lingmore's gaze at once. In just a few days, Shen Lingmore had grown even more haggard. The once dashing, spirited General Shen was now a shadow of his former self. His eyes were dark and hollow, his body covered in wounds. Su Tangyu didn't know that the first prince had deliberately arranged a feast on the city wall and ordered the ritual officer to chant the wedding vows at the top of his lungs, causing Shen Lingmore to suffer a violent shock that made him spit up a mouthful of blood. She only frowned, saying, "Great Yang's army is fierce. I'm afraid they'll breach the city walls soon." As the commanding general, Shen Lingmore was leading the charge with bloodshot eyes, fighting recklessly without regard for his own safety. His soldiers' morale was sky high, making victory seem inevitable. The first prince waved a hand dismissively at her words. "I've brought my troops, I'll go meet him in battle myself." Su Tangyu said no more. The border cities of Great Yang had originally been built tall and imposing, designed to repel northern Di invasions. But since Anyang City had fallen into northern Di hands, its walls had been destroyed, trampled by cavalry, and it was now barely defensible. Worse still, the generals and soldiers defending the city were all Great Yang people, just like the army attacking it. The battle was a tragic spectacle of brother fighting brother. Her gaze swept over the struggling generals of Anyang City. Under the watchful eyes of the northern Di tribe, they shouted "Kill the enemy" at the top of their lungs. Their minds filled with nothing but saving their own skins, not thoughts of fellow countrymen or honor. Her expression turned cold. These men would die today. The sounds of battle continued to rage, but a cry suddenly went up from the northern Di soldiers behind her. "No, it's terrible. The Khan is in trouble." The old Khan had been expected to die within the month, but no one knew better than Su Tangyu that his death would come so soon. The moment the news of the Khan's emergency spread across the city wall, Su Tangyu had already stepped back, putting distance between herself and the first prince beside her, and took the bow and arrow handed to her by Baizhu. Under the first prince's confused gaze, she knocked an arrow and drew the bowstring. At the same time, the clash of weapons erupted on the city wall, accompanied by the shocked cries of northern Di generals. "You Great Yang dogs! What are you doing?" Below the wall, the generals of Anyang City, who had been fighting diligently for the northern Di tribe, slaying their own countrymen, suddenly froze, blood spilling from the corners of their mouths. From behind them, their supposedly loyal subordinates drove their blades into their backs, sneering at them. "Enjoying killing your fellow Great Yang people, you traitors who surrendered to the northern Di dogs." Their eyes widened in horror. But they couldn't utter a single word before drawing their last breath. Half of the Great Yang army attacking the city froze in their tracks, unsure of what was happening. But the other half, who had received their orders long ago, let out a thunderous roar and charged forward without hesitation, surrounding and slaying the northern Di soldiers. The fratricidal bloodshed of Great Yang men instantly transformed into a battlefield between Great Yang and the northern Di tribe, on the city wall. The first prince was stunned for a moment, seeing his subordinates cut down and maimed before they could react. A look of grim realization crossed his face. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw someone swinging a blade at him and immediately snatched a sword from a nearby guard to block the strike. He knew without a doubt that this was Su Tangyu's doing. He tried to turn to look at her, but an arrow came flying straight at his face. Su Tangyu's arrow grazed his left cheek, leaving a trail of blood in its wake. She had intended to shoot again, but she suddenly paused. For a split second, she could have sworn she saw tears in the first prince's eyes, but she had no time to dwell on it. The first prince was a fierce warrior. The few Great Yang guards on the wall couldn't hope to hold him off. She was about to send word to mobilize more Great Yang troops when someone suddenly grabbed her from behind. Tangyu, in the blink of an eye. Shen Lingmore had scaled the city wall and rushed to her side. When she turned to look at him, the bloodshot madness faded from his eyes. Just like when they had first met years ago, he instinctively straightened his robes, then called her name softly and cautiously. "Tangyu." The words escaped his lips, and he froze in place, unsure of what to say next. But Su Tangyu merely tossed him a steel knife. "Cut the crap. Go capture the first prince." Shen Lingmore caught the knife. And for the first time in what felt like an eternity, the excruciating pain in his chest and heart eased. So her marriage had been nothing more than a ruse to lower the first prince's and the northern Di tribe's guard, not a genuine desire to marry him. He nodded firmly, turning to join the fray to capture the first prince. Having been a soldier since he was a boy, Xianxia was an exceptional warrior. It wasn't long before he and the others managed to subdue the first prince. I apologize for this, Su Tangyu said politely, waving her hand to signal the guards to take the bound first prince away, but the first prince suddenly kicked the guards aside, strode up to Su Tangyu, his face contorted with rage. Twice, he ground out through gritted teeth, his voice full of fury. You've shot me with your arrows twice. The first time, I thought you were harmless, so I didn't guard against you. The second time, I thought of you as my wife, so I lowered my guard even more. But you've wounded me twice, Su Tangyu. In the northern Di tribe, once we choose a partner, we remain loyal to them for life. But you've betrayed me. Su Tangyu's expression flickered slightly, but before she could speak, Xianxia stepped in front of her protectively. He pressed the blade of his knife against the first prince's neck. Don't you dare hurt Tangyu. But the first prince refused to back down, his gaze fixed stubbornly on Su Tangyu. Su Tangyu looked away, finally uttering a single word of apology. Great Yang has no such custom. She had been betrayed too many times to count. She was already used to such things. For the sake of Great Yang's people, she would not hesitate for a moment. Besides, she would not kill the first prince. Before the first prince was dragged away, he asked Su Tangyu, were second brother and third brother also tricked by you? Father is dead, yet not a single soldier of the northern Di's 100,000 troops has moved. Su Tangyu did not hide the truth. With the Khan dead and you captured, no one will be able to command those 100,000 troops now. In truth, Su Tangyu felt a surge of gratitude for her good fortune. The clan backing the second prince was greedy for wealth, easily bought off with gold and silver, but the clan supporting the third prince coveted Great Yang's land even more. It had taken her great effort to persuade them to temporarily lay down their arms. The northern Di valued power above all else. With the old Khan on his deathbed and the first prince's heavy-handed rule, the clans that had long desired power for themselves had all stayed away today, waiting for the chance to seize control from the first prince. Without the old Khan to command the chieftains, and with the first prince never formally ascending the throne, the northern Di leaders would now fight among themselves. Uniting the tribes would be far more difficult from now on. Furthermore, the occupied Great Yang cities had now risen in rebellion, joining forces with the Great Yang army. Reclaiming the lost territories would be easier than ever. A smile spread across Su Tangyu's face, brighter and more radiant than any smile she had ever worn before. Her features were naturally cool and elegant, but this smile chased away all the shadows of her rebirth, her beauty shining so brightly it dazzled the eyes. The stream of curses and insults the first prince had been about to hurl died in his throat. He stared at Su Tangyu, then muttered under his breath, half grouchy, half resigned, I guess I'm stuck with you for the rest of my life. The news of the first prince's capture and the old Khan's death reached the second and third princes soon after. The second prince sighed, I thought it would take her decades of careful plotting to win back those Great Yang cities. I never imagined she'd do it so quickly. And people really are cunning. The third prince had been pacing back and forth, driven to distraction by his subordinates' constant nagging. At his brother's words, he grinned, isn't this perfect? She'll be stationed right here, so close to us from now on. His subordinates had been urging him to marry and have children to secure his position as future clan leader, and he had grown increasingly irritable with their suggestions, so he said casually, and being so close means I can rekindle our relationship without worrying she'll sneak up on me in the middle of the night to kill me. The second prince stared at him in shock. Third brother, you. The third prince flashed a smile, his sharp canine teeth glinting. Don't you like her? I've liked her since the first time I saw her. I was so sad when I heard eldest brother was going to marry her. With that, the third prince walked away humming a tune, leaving the second prince staring after him with a complicated expression, his gaze drifting toward the tent entrance. After the rebellion against the Northern Di army and their return to Great Yang's borders, the three once-occupied cities erupted in cheers. Su Tangyu was officially hailed as their savior princess. The people and the generals alike were utterly loyal to her, obeying her every command without question. Now, all she needed was an official appointment from the imperial court, and she would be able to govern the border cities in name as well as in fact. But even without that appointment, it would not matter. All she wanted was to stay here, to have a place to call home, to protect the people of Great Yang. She desired nothing more. Shen Lingmo did not lead his army away in the days that followed. Instead, he remained in Anyang City, lingering outside Su Tangyu's quarters. Eventually, Lu Jiao, who had guarded Su Tangyu faithfully all these years, grew tired of his presence and drove him away, telling him not to come back and harass her again. A few days later, Shen Lingmo mustered up his courage and asked to speak to Su Tangyu alone while she was inspecting the city guards. "Tangyu, do you hate us?" Ever since he had regained the memories of his past life, he had suffered agonizing heartache every night, unable to escape the shadow of having wrongfully killed her. But what he really wanted to ask was, "Do you hate me?" He dared not say the words aloud, afraid that if she said yes, he would not be able to bear it. Su Tangyu was taken aback by his question, surprised that he would even ask such a thing. 2 years had passed in the blink of an eye, and the shadow of her rebirth had long since faded. For the past 2 years, she had dedicated herself to gaining more leverage in the Northern Di tribe, to sparing the lives of Great Yang's people, working tirelessly day and night. Looking back now, the resentment and despair she had felt back then no longer mattered to her. "I don't hate you," she said. The Northern Di had a harsh, uncivilized culture, but their worldview held some truths. It was a world where the strong preyed on the weak. Only the weak wasted their time on resentment and bitterness. When you had strength, when you held your fate in your own hands, love and hate no longer held the same weight. Su Tangyu's expression was calm, her gaze toward him truly peaceful. But Shen Lingmo felt a surge of panic. Only now did he realize that, compared to being hated by Su Tangyu, he could not bear being forgotten by her even more. As if he no longer held the slightest place in her heart, Su Tangyu turned to leave. A loud thud echoed through the air, the sound of knees hitting the ground hard. The people of Anyang City who heard the noise peeked out, their faces filled with surprise, but Shen Lingmo acted as if he did not see them, begging her, "Tangyu, please listen to me, just let me finish. I swear to heaven, I never wanted you to come to the Northern Di tribe for the marriage alliance. I have only ever loved you in this life. All the terrible things I did to you before I was blinded by Su Yaoyoro's lies. Even if you can never forgive me, please let me do one last thing for you. Please." Su Tangyu looked at him in confusion. She could not think of a single thing she needed him to do for her. "What do you want to do?" Shen Lingmo's expression was resolute. "I'll kill Su Yaoyoro for you." Su Tangyu froze. She knew how much Shen Lingmo had doted on Su Yaoyao, far more than he had ever doted on her. How could he suddenly say he wanted to kill her? But at that moment, instead of questioning his words, her mind drifted back to a scene from 2 years ago. Su Yaoyao had dragged her along for a horse ride, asking triumphantly if she truly believed Shen Lingmo would kill her for Su Yaoyoro's sake. Her unspoken answer back then had been yes, because that was exactly what he had done in her past life. That cup of poisoned wine had sealed her fate, and it had also given her a second chance at life. And now, Shen Lingmo was saying he would kill Su Yaoyoro for her. She wondered what Su Yaoyoro would think if she knew. A flicker of emotion crossed her face, but she quickly regained her composure. Staring into Shen Lingmo's eyes, she said, "I don't need you to do anything for me." She had thought he loved her in her past life, yet he had been the one to pour the poisoned wine down her throat. She had thought he loved Su Yaoyoro in this life, yet now everything she believed had been turned upside down. She did not understand how someone could claim to love another person, and then kill them. What kind of love was that? So she shook her head, her voice firm. "Shen Lingmo, you've stayed here long enough. Go back to the capital. You said you came to save me from the Northern Di tribe. Now I'm free from that den of wolves. I'm respected here in the northern border. There's nothing left for you to worry about. So please, go back." She paused, then added, "Besides, I'm already married." Don't say you love me anymore." Shen Lingmo trembled all over. As if pierced by 1,000 needles, he stared at her cold, indifferent face. A metallic taste of blood filling his throat. "That's not true, Tang Yu. The truth is, He could not bear to see her look at him with such indifference. He would rather she hated him. Anything was better than this. He opened his mouth, ready to pour out the entire story of his past life to her. But before he could speak, someone suddenly rushed up to Su Tangyu, dropping to their knees and kowtowing repeatedly. "Princess Tangyu, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince is gravely ill. On the verge of death. We beg you to return to the capital and take charge of Great Yang's affairs." Messengers from the capital had been arriving day after day, kneeling before Su Tangyu and begging her to go back. They ranged from the chief eunuch of the palace to high-ranking court officials. It was said that even the Prime Minister, the most powerful minister in the court, was on his way to see her. Her father, the Emperor, who had been living in seclusion in his palace, recovering from illness, had even issued an imperial edict naming her crown princess, ordering her to return to the court and govern the country. It seemed Su Qian's condition was truly critical. Su Tangyu understood. When the emperor had fallen ill, he had been bedridden and drowsy for a long time. Long ago, handing over the reins of power to the crown prince, her brother Su Qian. Though Su Qian had never formally ascended the throne, he had been the de facto ruler of Great Yang. But now that an imperial edict had been issued, Su Qian's situation must be far worse than anyone had imagined. As she was lost in thought, another imperial edict arrived. Su Qian had decreed that she could lead her army back to the capital and take over the governance of the state. Watching Su Tangyu order the imperial messengers to be housed in a guest residence, Bai Zhu hesitated, then asked tentatively, "Your Highness, what do you plan to do?" Su Tangyu snapped out of her reverie. "It's fine, make preparations, we're going back to the capital, no matter what. Great Yang's political stability must not be shaken, otherwise, regardless of what happens to the people, even if I wanted to remain in seclusion here, I would not be able to protect myself." Su Tangyu was truly surprised. Su Qian had been young, and though he had delayed marrying for a long time, he had always been in good health. She had never imagined he would fall ill. She had never dreamed she would be named crown princess, either. A month later, the army marched back to the capital. Su Tangyu had expected to face obstacles and resistance, but instead, the people lined the streets, smiling and cheering, welcoming her with open arms. She could hear their excited chatter. "I heard that after Princess Tangyu married into the northern Di tribe, she endured the barbarians' oppression, pretending to submit while secretly gathering her strength. In the end, she killed the northern Di Khan with her own hands and reclaimed our great Yang cities in one fell swoop. That's not all. I heard she educated the people and governed the border cities with wisdom. Even though she's a princess, she was willing to personally teach our farmers how to read and write. She's so down to earth. You all don't know the half of it. The princess I heard about is even more amazing. I heard the northern Di people were so loyal to her that when they heard she wanted to reclaim the cities, they threw open the gates and knelt before her. And when that so-called first prince tried to bully her, someone cut off his head from behind and presented it to her. The rumors grew more and more outlandish with each telling. Su Tangyu listened for a while, then called for Lu Jiao. "Go put a stop to these rumors." Lu Jiao nodded with a smile, adding an extra comment, "Don't be annoyed, Your Highness. Didn't you notice? The people aren't mentioning her at all." When Su Tangyu had left the capital for the marriage alliance 2 years ago, Lu Jiao had overheard people saying they wished Su Yaoyao a lifetime of happiness, urging her to enjoy all the blessings that should have been the princess's. Lu Jiao had been so angry he had nearly punched one of those people. But now, as they returned to the capital, no one mentioned Su Yaoyao anymore. In everyone's eyes, there was only their princess. All the respect, all the glory, all the praise, they belonged to her and her alone. Su Tangyu laughed at his words. "You certainly hold a grudge." Whether Lu Jiao held a grudge or not was beside the point. But when they entered the imperial palace, Su Tangyu realized that Su Qian held an even bigger one. For there, right in front of her, knelt Su Yaoyao, bound hand and foot, her clothes tattered, her appearance utterly wretched. It was said that Su Qian's critical condition today was entirely Su Yaoirou's doing. At the sight of Su Yaoirou's miserable state, it was Shen Lingmo who first glared with fury. He stepped forward, pointing at Su Yaoyao and snarling coldly, "I couldn't find you after that day. So you fled back to the capital from the border." Su Yaoyao had been drifting in and out of consciousness, but at the sound of that familiar voice, she lifted her head immediately, crying out with desperate hope, "Brother Lingmo, save me. Brother Crown Prince is trying to kill me." As soon as she finished speaking, a weak voice echoed through the palace hall, "Who's making all this racket, disturbing my afternoon nap?" It was the voice of the man who had once doted on her the most. Yet at that moment, Su Yaoyao trembled violently from head to toe. The Crown Prince's palace was filled with a strong, pungent smell of medicinal herbs. Su Qian's face was ashen, lying propped up on the bed, looking like a man on his deathbed. The Empress Dowager sat by his bedside, her face haggard with grief. When they saw Su Tangyu enter, both of them averted their eyes almost instinctively, as if they dared not meet her gaze. A heavy silence hung over the hall for a long time. Finally, Su Qian turned his gaze back to her, his voice soft and hoarse. "Tangyu, listen to all the evil things Su Yaoyao did to you." Su Qian had uncovered this shocking truth entirely by accident. After Shen Lingmo left for the front lines, Su Yaoyao, consumed by jealousy at the thought that he still cared for Su Tangyu, had plotted with the little eunuch to go to the border and kill Su Tangyu with her own hands. But no sooner had she stolen Su Qian's imperial seal and slipped out of the palace than she ran straight into Su Qian, who had been standing outside the door, listening to everything. Cornered and questioned by Su Qian, Su Yaoyao had panicked and stabbed him 3 times, each strike aimed at a vital spot, leaving him bedridden and dying. She had then fled to the border, hoping to continue living in luxury, only to be captured and brought back by Su Qian's men, under torture and interrogation. Su Yaoyao had finally broken down and confessed the whole truth. Su Qian and the Empress Dowager had only listened to it once, but every time they thought about it afterward, they were overcome with such overwhelming remorse that it felt like their hearts were being torn apart by 1,000 knives. All they wanted was to escape from the pain of it, but now, in front of Su Tangyu, they had forced themselves to be ruthless, determined to clear her name once and for all. At Su Qian's signal, the nanny standing behind Su Yaoyao raised a whip. Su Yaoyoro's pupils constricted in terror, and she stumbled backward in fear. "No, no, Brother Lingmo, save me." She tried to crawl to Shen Lingmo's feet, reaching out to grab the hem of his robe, but he stepped back sharply, avoiding her touch. He watched coldly as she was dragged away to be punished. Crack! The sound of the whip lashing against flesh was followed by a shrill scream from Su Yaoyao. In her agony, she blurted out the truth without thinking. "Ever since I entered the palace, I've been framing Su Tangyu. I slapped myself and pretended she did it to make you hate her. The poisoning incident years ago was also my doing. I deliberately shared a bowl of soup with her, hoping to poison her to death accidentally. I never imagined that she had eaten Snow Mountain Ganoderma when she was a child, making her immune to all poisons. When my plan failed, I quickly changed my strategy and waited until the poison took effect on me, making her unable to defend herself and pinning the blame on her. And there's more. After she was sent off for the marriage alliance, I was afraid she'd be brought back, so I sent someone to kill her and spread the news of her death. That's all. That's really all. Stop hitting me." One by one, she spilled all her vicious schemes and lies, as Su Yaoyoro's words poured out. Shen Lingmo, Su Qian, and the Empress Dowager sitting on the throne all clenched their fists tightly, their faces pale with rage and shame. Shen Lingmo's mind replayed her words over and over again. Though he was a military general with a strong, robust body, he could not stop trembling from head to toe. In his dreams, he had only known that Su Yaoyao had wanted to drag Su Tangyu down with her in her final moments. He had never imagined she had done all these terrible things before that. What was he hearing? The incident where Su Tangyu was accused of poisoning Su Yaoyao, it had all been a frame-up, a case of the villain crying wolf. Even after Su Tangyu had been forced to marry into the northern Di tribe, Su Yaoyao had still wanted to kill her to make sure she could never come back. And even Su Yaoiro's constant illness and frailty, all of it had probably been an act. What had they all done to Su Tangyu? They had believed Su Yaoiro's lies. Convinced that Su Tangyu was the one who had poisoned her, Su Qian had ordered her to be whipped 10 times, leaving her bedridden for half a month. To accommodate Su Yaoiro's fragile health, they had forced her to give up her palace, to give up all the love and favor she had once enjoyed. They had always thought that everything Su Tangyu did was just to gain attention, that they needed to temper her character. When she was injured and suffering, they had turned a blind eye and a deaf ear. But it turned out that they had been the ones who were wrong all along. Thinking about all the suffering Su Tangyu had endured in this life and the last, Shen Lingmore's heart was wrenched with such agony that he could barely breathe. He could no longer hold back. The metallic taste of blood filled his throat, and he spat out a mouthful of scarlet blood. Meanwhile, Su Yaoyao was still begging for mercy, her shrill screams echoing through the crown prince's palace. Contrasting sharply with the deathly silence that hung over the three of them, all three of them hung their heads low, daring not to meet Su Tangyu's eyes. They could not bear to imagine what she was thinking. Hearing all this, recalling all the unfair accusations and biased punishments she had endured over the years, would she hate them forever? Su Qian's chest heaved violently, and a faint, unhealthy flush spread across his ashen face. After a long while, he called out to the nanny. His voice cold and devoid of any emotion. "She's not speaking clearly enough. Make her say it again." Why did Su Yaoyao have to mention their bias while confessing her crimes against Su Tangyu? It was as if she was determined to strip them of all their dignity, leaving them with no way to beg for Su Tangyu's forgiveness. Su Tangyu watched the entire farce unfold before her eyes. The truth about Su Yaoiro's evil schemes against her had finally come to light. Her name cleared after years of being wronged, yet she did not feel the surge of joy she had once imagined she would. Once, she had been unable to defend herself, trapped by lies while everyone around her had believed she was guilty. In her last life, she had struggled and fought back, only to meet a tragic and painful end. But in this life, she had long since stopped caring about it all. If she no longer cared, then where could there be any sense of relief or happiness? She simply watched silently. She did not say a word, but Su Yaoyao, who had been whipped until she fainted and then revived to be whipped again, could no longer endure the pain. No one would stop the punishment, no matter how she begged and pleaded. Her cries had turned hoarse and broken from screaming. But she still forced herself to speak, her voice trembling with hatred. "What's the use of punishing me? Weren't you the ones who hurt Su Tangyu? You're the ones who whipped her. You're the ones who forced her to marry into the northern Di tribe. You're the ones who never believed a word she said. All of it was your fault. Why are you only punishing me? You're the ones who deserve to suffer the most. Shut up." Before she could finish speaking, the nanny, acting on Su Qian's orders, kicked her hard in the chest. Su Yaoyao crashed into the door, spitting out a mouthful of blood. She collapsed to the floor, lifting her head with great difficulty. Staring at Su Tangyu with eyes burning with jealousy as she stood there, radiant and triumphant, she hated Su Tangyu for being born a princess, hated her for being showered with love and favor since childhood, hated her for never having to endure any hardship. Su Yaoyao felt a bitter surge of resentment that she had been born an orphan, resentment that all the talk about marrying into royalty and rising from the ashes like a phoenix had been nothing but lies. Ever since she had entered the palace, everything she had ever had was nothing more than Su Tangyu's charity. She still had nothing, still had to grovel and beg for Su Tangyu's pity. But why? She had wanted to replace Su Tangyu, to become the princess admired by all. She stared at Su Tangyu's current glory with bitter hatred until she saw the utter lack of emotion on her face. Then, a twisted smile of triumph spread across Su Yaoiro's lips. She had fought for so long, and in the end, she really had taken everything that had belonged to Su Tangyu. So what if everyone now regretted their actions? In front of Su Tangyu, she had still won. As long as she put on her usual act of being pitiful, someone would still take pity on her. She coughed twice, lying on the ground, and finally managed to summon her old, whimpering tone of voice, the one she used to get sympathy. "Grandmother, brother Crown Prince, brother Lingmore, I was just confused for a moment. I only wanted to earn your love and affection. after all these years, hasn't Su Tangyu been perfectly fine? She never got hurt at all. You really did love me once, didn't you, brother Lingmore? Have you forgotten the night we spent together? You told me that I was the love of your life. Su Yarrow turned to look at Su Tangyu, trying to provoke the anger and heartbreak she was sure must be hidden beneath that calm exterior. But the ones who reacted most violently were the other three people in the room. Shen Lingmore snatched the whip from the nanny's hand and lashed it fiercely at Su Yarrow, his face twisted with disgust. We only ever pitied you, who knew every single word out of your mouth was a lie. Su Qian also ground his teeth in rage. If you hadn't put on such an act, we would never have wronged Tangyu. You deserve to die. The Empress Dowager slammed her palm down on the table, pointing at Su Yarrow and shouting in a cold, icy voice, "Guards, I never want to hear her voice again. Cut out her lying tongue and throw her into the water dungeon to be tortured." Su Yarrow's eyes widened in terror, unable to believe they would be so cruel to her. She struggled frantically to escape, screaming, "No, no! Lingmore, brother Crown Prince, save me!" Her pleas and sobs fell on deaf ears. All three of them watched her coldly, determined to make her pay for every bit of suffering she had inflicted on Su Tangyu. Her cries faded into the distance, but the heavy silence still hung thick over the palace hall. Shen Lingmore's eyes were bloodshot with tears of remorse. Finally, he mustered up all his courage and called out to her, "Tangyu." When Su Tangyu turned her gaze to him, he knelt down heavily on the ground, punching the floor so hard that he shattered the bones in his fist. Yet he refused to stop. His voice was low and broken as he begged for forgiveness. "I'm sorry, Tangyu, I was wrong. I was so terribly wrong." Su Qian, also overcome with guilt, struggled to his feet and knelt before her, slapping himself hard across the face again and again, his voice filled with agony. "Tangyu, sister, I'm sorry. Your brother is so sorry for what I did to you." The Empress Dowager's eyes were also red with tears as she looked at Su Tangyu, her voice trembling with anxiety. "Tangyu, will you ever be able to forgive us?" Su Tangyu was stared at by three pairs of eyes, all filled with desperate hope, but she did not answer for a long time. After what felt like an eternity, she turned to look at Su Qian and asked, "When are you going to die?" As soon as the words left her mouth, Su Qian's eyes widened in shock, as if he could not believe what he was hearing. He felt as if his heart had been split in two, his already weak body could no longer bear the pain, and his eyes filled with utter despair. He thought to himself, "Tangyu wants me to die. Then Su Tangyu had no idea what he was thinking. She continued speaking calmly, as if she were talking about the weather. "You don't know when you'll die, but I know exactly when I died in my last life. It was 2 years ago. On a snowy night, I died in unimaginable pain." All three of them trembled violently at her words. Shen Lingmore, in particular, turned ashen-faced. His eyes filled with the hollow look of a man who has lost all hope. He crawled forward on his knees, grabbing the hem of Su Tangyu's robe, his voice cracking with tears. "Tangyu, it's all my fault. I'm the one who killed you. I don't expect you to ever take me back. But I'm willing to drink poison, to endure the same pain you suffered in your last life, to atone for my sins. I don't ask for anything else. I only beg you to say one word, just one word. Will you forgive me?" With that, Shen Lingmore pulled a jade vial from his bosom and drank the poison inside in one gulp. He had done it to prove his sincerity, hoping against hope that it would soften her heart, even just a little. After drinking the poison, he looked up at her, longing to see a trace of pity or concern on her face. But all he saw was her back as she turned and walked away. Shen Lingmore knelt there, frozen in place, his eyes empty and lifeless. In that moment, the wheel of fortune had finally turned full circle. The sight of Su Tangyu's retreating back was hauntingly familiar. It was exactly the same as the countless times he had turned his back on her. Su Tangyu strode quickly out of the Crown Prince's palace, having actually heard a whistle from Lu Jiao outside. As soon as she stepped out, before she could even ask what was wrong, Lu Jiao reported promptly, "Your Highness, several court officials are requesting an audience outside the palace. They wish to discuss the flood control measures in the southwest." Su Tangyu immediately cast aside the sounds of weeping and wailing that still echoed faintly behind her. Her expression turned solemn. Show them to the council hall. I will join them shortly. Lu Jiao bowed to acknowledge the order and was about to turn away when Su Tangyu remembered something else. Is the first prince still locked up in the prison cell? Tell the guards to make sure he's well fed. No more of this hunger strike nonsense. Once I officially assume the regency, I will allow him to return to the northern Di tribe, as you command, Your Highness. Perhaps it was the crushing heartbreak of receiving no response to his desperate confession of guilt. Only 5 days after returning to the capital, Su Tangyu wasted no time in taking over the reins of government, preparing to ascend the throne as Empress Regnant. Su Qian's condition had deteriorated to the point where he was on the verge of death. The imperial physicians said that only the miracle-working doctor in the emperor's private palace had any chance of saving him. He was set to leave for the imperial villa in a few days. Su Tangyu, complying with his request, accompanied him for the final journey and specifically ordered that Su Yaoyao be brought along as well. The sight of Su Yaoyao had caused Su Qian to choke on his own breath, nearly dying on the spot from rage and despair, but he had clung to life, rambling on, confessing his sins to Su Tangyu, and teaching her everything he knew about governing the state. Before leaving, he had ordered his men to force a cup of poisoned wine down Su Yaoyao's throat, ensuring that she died a slow, agonizing death as punishment for her crimes. As for Shen Lingmo, after drinking the poison, the toxic brew had reacted violently with the internal injuries and accumulated blood clots in his body, causing him to vomit buckets of blood. Miraculously, he had survived by the skin of his teeth, but was quickly sent back to his marquisate mansion to recuperate. Bedridden and barely conscious, the Empress Dowager, too ashamed to ever face Su Tangyu again, had shaved her head and taken refuge in a small Buddhist nunnery within the palace grounds. She had left a message for Su Tangyu, saying that she would spend the rest of her life praying day and night for her peace and happiness. When Su Tangyu heard these tidings, she simply nodded and said nothing. She had far too much work to do to spare them any more of her attention. At the moment, she was staring at a report with a look of exasperation on her face. Why on earth is the first prince refusing to return to the northern Di tribe? She asked, her tone tinged with disbelief. After she posed the question, the young, handsome Minister of Rights, who had just been promoted to his position, replied with a faint smile, Your Royal Highness, the barbarian prince claims that since he and Your Highness have entered into the marital bond, he is now willing to stay in the capital as your royal consort. That is why he refuses to leave. Su Tangyu was stunned speechless. She had never imagined the first prince would be so audacious. She blurted out without thinking, What am I supposed to do with him? If Your Highness has no desire to accept him as your consort, you may simply issue a letter of divorce, Your Highness, that will put an end to his delusions once and for all, the Minister of Rights suggested calmly. Su Tangyu shot him a surprised glance, hesitated for a moment, and was about to speak when a eunuch hurried into the hall to announce, Her Royal Highness the Crown Princess. A state letter has arrived from the northern Di tribe. Su Tangyu's expression lightened, thinking that it must be the first prince's subordinates come to fetch him home. She immediately ordered the eunuch to bring the letter forward and took it from his hands, but after reading its contents, she was left in complete shock once again. The second prince and the third prince, they both want to come to the capital to marry me, she exclaimed, staring at the letter in disbelief. The words we humbly offer ourselves in marriage were written clearly in black ink on the white paper. Su Tangyu read the lines over and over again, making sure she had not misread them. But there was no precedent in the history of the world for princes to marry into a foreign court as consorts. Su Tangyu turned to look at the Minister of Rights standing beside her, her eyes filled with confusion. After a moment of silence, she saw the familiar 2 words reflected clearly in his eyes. Divorce letter. She twitched the corner of her mouth in amusement and retorted, I wasn't even officially married to him in the first place. As she spoke, a guard announced the arrival of Lu Jiao, now the commander of the Imperial Guards. The young, valiant general stood before Su Tangyu, hesitating slightly before speaking. Your Royal Highness, the flowers in the Imperial Gardens are now in full bloom. According to palace tradition, we should hold a flower festival banquet to celebrate. May I inquire as to how many young noblemen you wish to invite to the gathering? With Su Tangyu being the only unmarried member of the imperial family left in the palace, it was obvious that the banquet was being held for her benefit, a chance for her to meet eligible young men. Upon hearing this, Su Tangyue's head began to ache even more fiercely. She thought for a moment, then waved her hand dismissively. Postpone the discussion for now, I have more pressing matters to attend to. With that, she lifted her feet and walked out of the council hall, leaving her attendants behind, craving a moment of peace and quiet to clear her mind. As she stepped outside, she was greeted by a breathtaking sight, a sea of vibrant flowers in full bloom, competing with each other in a riot of colors and fragrances. The magnificent, flourishing scenery of the flowers mirrored the prosperity and grandeur of Great Yang itself, thriving under her rule.